poll. You see the other poll?
Sorry, you're going to have to wait for this. I'm dealing with the live streaming and recording.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. We are live streaming. I'm going to start recording, and then maybe Zainab, you can introduce the next session. I'm going to handle the Slido after that, okay?
Yes. Okay. Welcome again. Let me share my screen for the next, our last session of this 7-day marathon of our symposium, AACCP 2021. So today, the last session will be the AACCP Roundtable, which is going to be chaired by Per Elias Cornell from University of Gothenburg and co-chaired by Alessandro Kamitz, Özyeğin University. So Per Elias Cornell and Alessandro Kamitz, the stage is yours.
Thanks a lot. We have had a marathon, as you said, but we have perhaps become a little bit wiser, and we have had a lot of experiences. It will take some days to really digest all this. For AACCP, I must begin by thanking the University and its rector for its hospitality and all the co-organizers. And above all, of course, I must thank Alessandro Kamitz and his fantastic staff, Sinan, Zainab, and I would like to say that, as Sumani has remarked, the organization of this online event has been fantastic. It is an enormous pleasure to see how it has run smoothly and efficiently all through. So thanks very much. I would like us to make an applause or something, but it is difficult to do that. Perhaps all and everyone can make a salute with this hand. If everybody do that, it's something similar at least. If everybody put up that hand to salute the organizers.
Yes, Pat, thank you very much. I would also suggest that everyone turn on their microphone and clap. Now you can do this also. So if you turn, everyone
can try, but we'll see what happens.
Let's turn on the microphone and clap.
Let's see if we can clap. So it really was a fantastic thing. So that is what was most important to say, I think. Then, of course, the AACCP has 3 coordinators. It consists of me and Giorgio and Lisa Seppinen. And we are very grateful for all types of suggestions and ideas which come up and out from this AACCP in Istanbul. And we will process all that and see what we can do about that. We will start very quickly after this event to try to think about the next AACCP and also other questions related to the future of the AACCP. I thought a little bit that we could we have a sort of a list of names here, and if I don't know if all of them are present, but I thought that if everybody could, with just 2-3 sentences, very briefly, say what they thought was the best thing about this AACCP in Istanbul, and what are things that could be even better. So if we start with, we could just start with Lisa, perhaps.
Thank you, Per. There were many very good issues, and I also want to thank for Alessandra and organizing team. You have done splendid work, really. And all in all, the symposium was very comprehensive, with a variety of topics, with a variety of presentations, and very good presentations, with many people participating from different fields and backgrounds, with different expertise, having experience from different kind of projects. And the sharing of ideas and sharing of knowledge was very good. And I think this is sort of our main task. One of the main tasks of this network is to share information and share expertise and share ideas. And this is something that we really succeeded this time very well. So this was the very good something that we managed to do very well. And I would like to we have sort of expanded the themes that we have approached from urban development to architecture and buildings and historic values and heritage values, and how to approach all these questions. And it is a good thing that we sort of increase our understanding about many aspects that are included in archaeology, architecture, and contemporary city planning. And on the other hand, I would like to keep in mind our sort of original purpose of the network, which was to increase collaboration between different experts and highlight the importance of archaeology, architecture, and city planning, how they can collaborate together. So I would like to keep that focus in our mind in the future as well. And I don't know whether I had 3 suggestions and 3 good ideas, but anyhow, these are at the moment in my mind, and I shall be back with more ideas. So I passed my
Thank you, Lisa. That was very interesting. And should we move on to Giorgio?
Yes. Sorry, I clicked on the microphone, but it was open yet. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for the organization, which is probably the best aspect of this AACCP, because it was perfectly working and pushed the people in place at the right time, and everything worked fine, and all the trouble issues were resolved in time. So this is a success, because we had a very, very minimal problem with the no showing out, and most of the people with trouble in connection get it resolved. So thank you a lot for the very, very good organization of all the steps. Thanks mostly to Alessandro Kamitz and to Zainab Ceylani for the perfect work, but obviously thanks to all the people collaborating, to Ozge, Edzgi, the Tupelin and Zeren, and also, I don't keep on enumerating all of them. Something better should be first of all, going back in place for sure, because it's not a secondary aspect. But what can be is to have a very good blended solution where we have both online and in place situations, but with enhancement in front of it. But obviously this will not depend strictly from the organization of the next ACCP. The idea to have can be to have a small edition, like a small group of people meeting somewhere, even in a minor location. That can be a good idea to have occasion to organize and to match more complex contribution and presenting project, and then a larger event that can be in a major town and in a place that allow hosting and have better chances to have in-presence activities because the spaces and so on. So this can be something for the to start immediately and to plan, take a good look to the calendar, to the glass sphere, and think about, okay, this can be a good moment for bringing the event in place and so on. So even the idea to have a form for the candidates for this two event can be a good one. So we can ask for some minimal requirement and declaration of interest for starting up the next ACCP, and then move quickly to present the next edition, because the large number of participants was very, very good. General reflection about the work we see in these days is that I have noticed that we have a large number of projects that are autonomous projects, and a very small number of projects that are with a complete financial support by institution or agency and so on, which makes sense, because in the end we can be very interested in supporting the dissemination, exchange, and the occasion about taking place, bringing the experience that is a personal research or study, meeting with other similar studies and with the others that have a better support. In general, it should be a good idea to give more space to them and more occasion, even with some specific solution to push these people to meet out of their presentation, because we have a very large number of registration. Then the participant were all in place, but the number never increased upper than a certain numbers. So this means that people come from their presentation and then move away and do something else. But it makes sense because we are all overburdened by online events. So it happens that people say, okay, I have something else to do. I had even too much to spend in front of the computer, and then I move away. So whatever it is, thinking something to promote meetings out of the possibility of being in presence should be something to think about, even for a blended next event. Because to be honest, I really think that we can consider the next ACCP as a blended event, if not fully in presence. So thank you a lot once again. These were my very, very fierce reflections about the present ACCP and the next. And so I pass back the word to Per.
So should we take Zainab next? Would you like to have some reflections?
Thank you very much, Per Cornell. Thank you for your really kind and nice words. We did work hard, but it's nice to see the results, the very good results of it. So we are very well. Maybe I can speak on behalf of my friends in this organization, that we are very happy with the outcome in the end. So I would like to thank all of you, including all the participants, all the presenters, all the keynote speakers, chairs, co-chairs, panelists, and I would like to thank you all as well. Well, I would like to make these remarks that when Alessandro told me that let's do the AACCP 2021 in Istanbul, in Özyeğin University, I said, okay, very easily, because when I was in Mersin in 2018 meeting, we were, I don't know, 20 people. And you know, it took 2 days, and one day was excursions. The program was very dense again, but it was, you know, comprehensible and small, intimate. So I said, okay. And in the end, we had this 7 days, 12 hours per day, live tours, guided tours, recorded tours, workshops. So these excellent lectures, and it turned into something very big, which frightened me, I should confess. But we saw that it can turn into something like that, and it's quite good. It's quite good to see such a result. So I would like to thank Alessandro Kamitz for having this idea on before you. I think one of the main aims of AACCP is the transdisciplinarity of the fields related to the built environment and heritage and history and archaeology. I think we had a really successful results in seeing all these different disciplines. I don't know. Well, I know that a number of people had the chance to follow almost all the sessions, almost all the events. So maybe they also share my comments. But it was very, as Per Cornell said, we learned a lot during these sessions. I learned a lot. In terms of different perspectives, in terms of different tools of research, different tools of design even, and also I took note of a lot of archives and resources that I haven't been aware of. And also, it was also very enriching experience to have examples throughout the history. I mean, beginning from around like 2000 BC, we see these examples, and also very contemporary examples. We saw new projects, modernist projects, Gothic, and you know, from different periods of time. So it is also a very enriching experience for me. But again, this transdisciplinarity, so the idea of sharing, idea of being aware of the other, either research or people or discipline, field. It was one, I think it's the expected result of AACCP, and I believe that we achieved it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a very interesting reflection. I would say that two things. Just I think that on one hand, we did an online thing because of COVID, and we could speak about that we, despite of this, succeeded. But I think that we, thanks to this online organization, also learned new things and how to organize an event, the new possibilities, which could become important in future AACCP events in this blended form that Giorgio discussed. And I also think, like you, Zainab, that it is very, very important, this element of sharing, that we also discuss, that we are not afraid of having different opinions. I mean, we can be friends despite of having different opinions. It is important to listen to different voices and different ideas, even if we do not agree. That always gives us possibilities to think differently, and it's very important not to stop listening to people that have different types of ideas. Then if you stop that entirely, you will become stupid. And finally, I mean, it should be productive. And I think we have achieved that this conference. So we go on to Sinan.
Yes, thank you, Per. I would like to start my words with a huge thanks to Alessandro Kamis, to Zainab Ceylanlı, and to all the organizing committee of this symposium. Thank you, thanks a lot. And also to Özyeğin University, which hosted this huge organization. And this is actually my first time with AACCP. So I met you all through this progress, and I never knew before about this multidisciplinary and progressive network. And when we first discussed with Alessandro, and he also suggested me to join to the organizing committee of this symposium, I just did a quick research about this network, and I really liked the idea to gather different interdisciplinary, let's say, researchers, experts, and from various fields, and to work together and to discuss the topics regarding the urban planning, urban, let's say, regeneration, progress, change, and conservation of also the cultural assets and heritage. So I think this organization and this event was a very huge event, as Zainab told. We had more or less 200, let's say, with the keynotes and panelists, authors, co-authors, speeches. And at the end, I found it very fruitful, and also it merged out different kinds of questions regarding the near future. For instance, how to deal with this crisis, how to manage, and as already Giorgio said, maybe the next symposium will be a blended. We all missed to touch the physical reality and to be in place. We all know that, but I also really enjoyed those discussions regarding the virtual reality, the use of 3D techniques, and to, I think it was Alessandro, this what was it? The Marxist idea of becoming a thing. So the heritage is as a thing, is perceived as a thing. So how to deal with this? And I really enjoyed also the discussions at the end of each session. And yes, there were not, the participation stayed at a number. I know that not many people had chance to, let's say, to follow all the sessions. Some of them just joined to their, let's say, session. I know that, but maybe it is not so easy in such a through this online symposium to follow and to catch all the sessions, because you are at home or at office and life goes on. Because before we went physically to a place and stayed there for couple of days or for a week, and we were out of our let's say, in a way, duties, and we kept still to try to catch the life and also try to follow the organization. So I found it very challenging for me. It was not so easy, but I tried to do my best. but I really like this idea and to this progressive network idea and to discuss. And like as Alessandro said, all the time, all the days, it's not a webinar. So I also like the idea to open our videos, to turn on our videos and microphones and speak loud and to discuss. So thank you. Thanks again for this organization and also for letting me in this organization. Thank you.
Thanks for your hard work and thanks for your words now. Then we go on with Sinan.
Hello, everyone.
Sinan has already participated in some different editions of the AACCP.
Yep. It was in Mersin first. I happened to organize. I was lucky to be one of the organizers of the Mersin meeting. Then I attended the Rome session. Now this, I didn't have any presentations here, but I had some duties as chairs and co-chairs. And I didn't have the luxury to, I didn't have the luxury to attend all the sessions as was discussed here, because yes, life goes on. It's a luxury to be able to attend all the sessions. And what I find interesting in this version Istanbul meeting of AACCP is the variety of topics and subjects, and also attendance of variety from different geographies and different countries. I doubt that we could have reached that variety, at least in the geographical sense, if it was face-to-face. We ought to have reached this variety because everything is online now. If it was face-to-face, it would have been a different experience. We would be attending all the sessions, etc., etc. Yes, but as it is online, we have examples, presentations, projects, many things from many different geographies. So it is one for COVID. We have to admit it. I think this variety is good for trying to achieve that variety is good, both in the geographical sense and both in the topics, subject sense. But we have to, as was done in the Istanbul meeting, we have to try to control and direct that variety by defining a well outlined call for papers. We have to stick to that. And also this variety can be achieved again in the next AACCP or AACCPs. This can be achieved again through a hybrid meeting, because the way it goes, this pandemics, management of pandemics isn't the same in every geography. So hopefully, I would like to see you guys face to face, but I missed the social contact. But hopefully we will do it face to face. But hybrid sessions will be much better to aim at, I guess. Thank you. Thanks for the organization again, to everyone.
Thank you. Then we move on to Darko Reva, an architect, PhD and full professor at the University of Novi Sad in Serbia. And he is the author of various interesting papers, both in local and international publications. And he has done interesting research in various areas and financed by the different types of funds. So, Darko Reva, the screen is yours.
I don't see his name though. Darko Reba, are you here with us?
Seems he has not
So seems
No.
not to be
entered.
here. No,
Mhm.
so
Would
let's
then we move on to the next?
we will move on to the next one.
Juliana Linda Nelia, yeah, we have already met her several times on this Congress, so I don't think any introduction is necessary. Please, Julia.
So thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank Alessandro, Zainab for this great organization and for having invited me to join this conference. It was the first time for me, so I'm unable to make any kind of comparison with the past session, but I think the organization was really great. I mean, if I cannot talk about what to improve, because I really, this time was really special, no? Because the online modality was the only one possible in this period. But this opened up to us the possibility not to have some parallel session. And I think this was very good, because we were talking about the difficulties in following this marathon for many reasons. I mean, I was teaching some days, and you know, we have many duties in parallel. So when you go out for a conference, when you go somewhere, it's true, you are there. And there is nothing else than the symposium and everything around it. But you have also a number of parallel sessions to join, and sometimes you can miss something, no? Because there are many things that perhaps you want to follow, and it's difficult. In this way, it was possible really to, I mean, out of all the difficulties of the real life that we already mentioned, it was really possible to follow everything, no? And so I think this was something good. On the other side, we missed a lot. I mean, a few minutes ago, we were chatting a little bit on this virtual coffee, which was a great idea. And but I missed the live archaeogastronomy event. I mean, no, because it was there, but it was virtual in a way, and also the virtual tours. I think it was a great idea to organize something virtual as tours as well. But we are architects, no? And we need really to see with our real eyes, to touch with our hands, and so on. So this was something missing, but not because of the organization. I mean, it's because we are in this difficult situation. So I agree with the other panelists. I think that the blended solution will be the one possible realistic solution for the next time. So going to the thing that I really enjoyed about the conference, I also want to stress the variety of approaches and also of vision and case studies. I discovered some places I had no knowledge about them. I'm thinking in particular to the Scandinavian, North European sites, which were very new for me, and I really enjoyed to have the chance to know it. And I also like this idea to have the landscape at the core of many sessions. No, in many cases we realize that even either from an archaeological point of view, from an architectural point of view, an urban point of view, we cannot deal about anything anymore without taking into account the role that the landscape has. No, so one of the keywords I was reading now that we are suggesting for the next conference, it's landscape, historic urban landscape. So we really need to deal with and to manage with this scale. And I also really enjoyed this idea of different workshops and different case studies. No? So a number of, I will call it local communities, but I don't know, I mean, this is general term, came out. I'm thinking, for instance, that the work that also Alessandro is carrying out with the Ecomos Italy, with the small towns in Italy, which is very important, no? And there was the space to discuss about this. But I'm also thinking about, I don't know, the special session on some small towns in Abruzzo, but also Rome with these archaeological landscapes and so on. So it was really interesting to have this specific focus on specific topics. And I hope that this will be repeated during the next conferences. So thank you very much again.
Thank you. Interesting reflections. Yeah, I think then we move to Giorgio Islami. Are you here?
He is here, but muted.
Yeah, just I had to unmute my microphone. Hello again. Yeah, it's my first time attending this conference, and to be really honest, I'm impressed by overpassing my expectations for such an online organization. So thanks to everybody who contributed to organize this great experience. I would love to be present with all of you and to physically meet, but I hope this happens next time. And I'm aware that is not a choice, but is it's something deriving from the situation. I would be happy also if in the near future we can have such an activity in Tirana, Albania, where I'm from, that can be a great opportunity to bring all of you here in my hometown and have the experience of the place. But let's see if that's feasible. And yeah, I think most of the things have been said regarding the organization. I would not like to repeat most of them, but I mean, being interdisciplinary, it's a very important thing because it brings together people that in other circumstances would not have met and would not have known the limits of their research. And yeah, being a big conference in numbers and in days, it's great for the impact, but also has the risk of discouraging people in attending that because times, you know, are limited. I mean, it's hard to expect from a professor or from a researcher to follow for a full week an activity, although on the other hand, we have the chance to pick up the topics we need and just follow those ones. What is important, in my opinion, as I'm an architect, is the city experience. So what lacked in this conference is having the experience of Istanbul in this case, but of any other city in other cases, because we really need to have this physical contact that goes beyond the normal conferences of every other science, which include the human relationship and the scientific sharing. And what's another important point, in my opinion, it's the networking. So it looks that this activity is creating a great network, which is really connected and really functional. So let's try to keep that and improve that aiming at strengthening the activities and the relationships between the universities, between the labs, or the research groups that are involved in this amazing initiative. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Then Latifa Samrar, doctor in classical archaeology, ancient history, ethnology, Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich, and is now head of the Archaeology and Art History Department of the Arkin University of Creative Art and Design in Kyrenia, North Cyprus. Has excavated at the Roman city Pompeiopolis between 2006 and 2016. Now the screen is yours. Are you here? Seems not.
No, she's here. She's going to unmute herself
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I would like to thank to the organizers for this very interesting and challenging conference. I was much impressed by a perfect organization. And I know how much work it was when Alessandro began to organize this conference already before Christmas. When he invited me, I was happy to be able again in Istanbul and in May, and absolutely a nice time to spend some wonderful days in Istanbul. Then disappointing, of course, that the conference could be held only online, but these advantages became an advantages, and I enjoyed very much. I particularly enjoyed the guided tours, particularly by Lucky Vingas or Zainab Kuban. It was really best. I, of course, learned a lot from the papers too, and several papers were very inspiring for my own research. I have to say that this was my first time participating in such a conference. Usually, we archaeologists are mostly among us, and we have a certain view, and this was an opportunity to see, to learn other views, and it was really a great experience for me. I'm particularly interested in the question why the cities are founded in certain places, and why they grow, and why other shrink, or why they disappear. And we need this long-term view, I think, to understand this phenomenon. And for future, I would suggest perhaps the sessions could be designed in more diachronic session, and focusing on certain phenomena or problems. This would be my suggestion for future conferences. I was really impressed, and I'm very happy to have participated in this conference, and I hope to see you all in a future conference. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. So Nicola Marceau has also already been up on the screen. Please, Nicola.
Yeah. So thank you very much for inviting me. I would like, of course, to thank again the organizer and Alessandro for this invitation. But also I would like to take the chance of this invitation in order to share with you a few important aspects. Of course, we all complain about the impossibility of being together, of sharing a corporeal experience beyond the screen. I already did several times, and every time I try to reflect on the experience I had by establishing a possible comparison with the in-presence experience. And I have to say that now things are cleared, at least to me. First of all, I do think that sharing knowledge, and this impressive international conference has to do with sharing knowledge, imply an impressive variety and range of expertise and talent coming from all over the world. And this is the case. This was the case, no doubt about it. But beyond that, in order to really share any knowledge, it's fundamental, and I realized over the last months, to be displaced. What does it mean to be displaced? This probably means that we should be obliged to leave our comfort zone, our familiar places, our offices, our classroom, in order to join a place where we do feel ourselves strange and estranged. And this is what I do really miss. I do really miss the possibility of joining friends and colleagues in unfamiliar places, or at least the familiar for those who, of course, are organizing things. And this is not what is happening in those online meetings. We do share ideas, we do compare opinion, but we do compare and share ideas by being centered in our comfort zone, in the middle of the room, in the middle of an office, in the middle of a crisis, and so on. So I do think we should reflect on the impossibility of literally sharing knowledge if not leaving our comfort zone. And I do really hope that we will have very soon the chance of experiencing again this opportunity. So I do think that the real work will start from now onward to really rethink about the experience we had by listening many provocative insight, but not being fully provoked as we were expect, simply because we were in our small and comfortable venue. So this paradoxical situation is something that you should keep to the fore for the coming future. So thank you again for inviting me, inviting us. Thank you again for the impressive effort, which was, of course, successful. But I do think we have to start working now, really reflecting on the specificity, the uniqueness of a conference in the presence for a real knowledge sharing experience. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, leaving the comfort zone is very important, actually. I ended up in a small village once in South America, in the Andes. That was leaving my comfort zone, and I think I learned more than I ever have learned from anything else. I think this is very important. Now we move on to Jan. Needs no introduction here. Please,
Good
Jan.
afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon. I do not know where Alessandro digged up this picture of mine of a very long time ago, pre-COVID. And to start with that, for me, it is actually thanks to COVID that I have been able to participate at this conference. If there would not have been COVID, I would have had my American students in Rome, and I would have been teaching practically around the clock 5 days a week. So thanks to COVID, which is in itself what has just been said, maybe another paradox, thanks to COVID, for me, it has been possible to get to know much better AACCP. I do thank Alessandro, Zainab, and the entire staff for having allowed me to participate at some of the preparation and then at the conference itself, for having given me a crash course in how to manage all the buttons for sharing screen, etc. on my computer. I'm an archaeologist, as you can read, and I was first of all very impressed by, and actually also a little bit envious by, the way that my colleague archaeologists, Per and Lisa, were able to dialogue, to converse about topics that certainly for what regards my university and academic education were completely alien. And by that, it is also obvious that the curriculum that exists, whether that is for archaeology, for architecture, or related, can not only differ from time to time, but also from geographical area to geographical area. And it reminds me of how important it is, and that thing, and somebody, Giorgio, I think, has said that, often we are imposed limits of research, and we should really try to break out of that. And this conference, certainly for me, has been extraordinarily instructive from that point of view. I have the, luck of being able to teach most of the time on site in Rome. So I have the opportunity to be confronted every day of the week with the diachronic aspect of the city. And I have the luck of being able to actually teach to mostly architecture students. As a result of that, I learn a lot also from them, the same way that I learn from my visual arts students when I teach to them about Roman art, for instance. So this is one thing, this breaking out of of the limits of your domain of research, etc. It came all the more out in this conference, a conference which has brought us all around the world. It has brought us throughout the almost history of mankind, and from which I would just briefly like to isolate 3 topics. What struck me, first of all, is the attention that there exists for the documentation of contexts, of monuments, of buildings, whether that is an urban or a rural reality, documentation, because documentation is important. Documentation should actually precede almost any kind of research, whatever it is, on a place, on an area, on an aspect of human presence. And also because, natural disasters happen all the time, from the earthquakes in Turkey and in Italy to the flooding, the effects of the climate change. but also because of human decisions, political decisions, cultural political decisions. And I think we all will remember the lecture on Belgrade and the erasure or erasion almost of the Ottoman period. So documentation, first of all, and I think work like that, which Giorgio Verdani is doing with his team, is so essential. I always say, even as an archaeologist, you know, because we are often confronted with these issues of, oh, we could not build this because there was a wall, an ancient wall. And I say, well, you know, document the wall as much as you can and then get rid of it. I mean, if this is just a wall, we should not care about it. It should not be in the place of an important new work of infrastructure or new building, but document. And that is what often is lacking. A second element that that I have and myself also have to take more into account is the importance of the study of the natural landscape. Anna Linda pointed that out already, and because obviously the history of the natural landscape is a history that is intrinsically connected with the history of man. And in some of the lectures, what I then, which is an element that I never really thought about, or at least not enough, is that also of the natural landscape, not just in the countryside, but also in an urban context. And I think about the contributions, I think 2 of the papers that address that in, and now I hope I'm not mistaken, was it in Sweden? Was it in Sweden? I think it was in Sweden, right? About the natural rock formations within the urban context. So that was also quite an eye-opener for me. And then the last thing is that of the contrast between very often the theory and the practice, between the model and the concrete situation on the field, and whereby the model should have a flexibility to adapt to the knowledge that is being gathered on the site, and not the other way around. So thank you once again, all of you, for having me. I hope that we can continue to dialogue about all these different topics also in the future.
Thank you very much for those words. I think I agree completely. There are 3 extremely important themes: documentation, not forgetting about natural landscape, and thinking a lot about what we actually have for information and how we can get more information. I think that I like Otto Neurath quite a lot, this logical empiricist from Vienna, who insisted very much on research as search, and that we must have models in order to advance, but that the model might turn out to be wrong, that we must be prepared to change our models, that we are searching. And actually, the most interesting moment in research is when we find something that we did not expect us to find. I think that is a very interesting idea. That happens rarely, but at times, and it's a very important moment. So I can absolutely agree on these points. Now, these were all the presentations. Alessandro, you yourself should say something.
No, yes, thank you very much. What I suggest is that now we have a very short report on the polls. And so we can show the results of all the 5, I think, polls we shared with our speakers during the entire symposium.
But Alessandro, first you should say something about what you consider was the best and those things that perhaps could be better for the next AACCP.
Yeah, so that's my suggestion, is that we go by examining the results of the polls and also my own, my own points eventually. But then we give another chance to each one of the people in this panel to discuss about the future of.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so that was the idea. So we have a second round because we have, what do we have? 30 more minutes for us to go until the next one thing is coming up, which is your conclusions and final remarks. So we got 30 minutes. Now, we have, so first of all, I want to say one thing, just a few notes about because that's the last chance to do this, about the symposium. The book of abstracts is, you can find it in the package for the authors as a PDF, but you can also order, you see it here, I need to turn off the screen, the background. You can also, if you want, order your copy of the book of abstracts online on the website. Okay, what's happening? And some of us have already done so, such as Martin Ebert. Thank you very much, Martin. I'm going to try blurring my background. Let's see if this does work. So you can get your hard copy of the book of abstracts on the website. The other one is the full papers. So after the conference, when we're done, we fully recovered from this marathon. We're going to send out a call for full papers, and the authors should be. I think the deadline is June the 1st. We might maybe update that a little bit, and then those papers will be double peer reviewed and move forward for the publication of the proceedings that we will do in the following months. The scientific committee of the same people who are peer reviewing will also shortlist those papers to be candidates for the Prix d'Istanbul, 1,000 euros that will be awarded to the winner of the prize of the best AACCP paper. And there's an independent award committee, which we have, I'm going to put that information in the chat after I'm done here. And also some of the papers, 119 papers in the symposium, will be selected for publication into Forma Civitatis, which is a new journal we're doing together with Martina Bett and Giorgio Verdiani as editors, and it's published by Grunberg Verlag, Weimar Rostock. So that is for the continuation of the proceedings. So that the independent committee will, read those shortlisted papers and select one, and they will be given the money, and there will be a ceremony for the, prize, and most probably within the works of the summer school in Castelvecchio Calvisio. Now, during the symposium, we have created a number of polls. The problem with this is that there's no there's no way you can create a report. So what I'm going to do is show you the results. But when I do this, if you want to put you want to give further input, when I change the active poll, when you go there, you're going to find that active poll. So starting from which is the most endangered heritage building in Turkey, and this is what we have coming up. Now, this is what we have right now. And so if you want to add further proposals for the most endangered heritage building in Turkey, you can go to that link that you're going to find in the chat and put that suggestion. But the caveat is do it right away, because in 1 minute, I'm going to change the active poll and you're going to go into some other page. So it seems like Hasan Cave is, according to the people in the symposium, the most endangered heritage building. It's a city actually in Turkey, but also the Principo Greek orphanage, as well as the walls of Constantinople and the Panagia Paramitia. Again, if you want to give your contribution, do it right away, because in 26 seconds, I'm going to move on to the other one. And you're not going to be able to give any other and put any other entry in here. Second question we asked was, I think it is, what is the future of archaeological sites? And this is what we have. Now, if you click on that link you see in the chat, you're going to get into this other poll. And you can answer here by putting some keywords or, and this is a word cloud, which is creating bigger characters for those keywords that had most votes. Now, I would like to say that here we have two different parties, the virtually accessible party and the renovation party. So those people that think that these archaeological sites should be virtually accessible, but they don't really care about the material consistency of the site. And the others who are a little bit more focused on the material consistency of the site. So they want to restore, they want to dig, they want to build, they want to design, they want to change, enhance, whatever. So two parties over there. Again, if you want, you can add your keywords in here as well, but do it, by clicking on that link or scanning the QR code with your phone, or even going to slido.com and entering AACCP2021 and entering your future for the archaeological sites. Do it right away because I'm going to be changing the poll in 5 seconds. Let's give you 5 more seconds for this. The other one was, what is the future of small towns? So I'm going to move on to what is the future of small towns. When I do so, when you click on the link, you're not going to reach anymore this one poll, but the other one. What is the future of small towns? Now, this is a list of futures, and all I can do is read them, but I don't think we should read them all, but let's take a look. Now, small towns, bright future for small towns. They are going to be deserted by larger settlements. This one is more about identity, and small towns is the evidence of culture, green public spaces, and increasing desire for a more inclusive community. So a new territorial cycle and morphological period. Small towns will be re-inhabited. New small online business because of low cost of living. So let's see, I think that pandemic and possibilities of distant working have increased the attraction and possibility of small towns connected with cities. Only old people will stay, and the young ones will go to work in the bigger towns. So even here we've got two parties, those who think the small towns are lost, gone forever, and those who see a bright future for small towns. I belong to the second party, and I do think that the pandemics has triggered some kind of transition in our territorial cycle, reversing some of those tendencies that happened in the last 50 years at least. So the migration from rural areas to metropolitan areas that we have experienced since the Industrial Revolution, most probably, but moreover in the after Second World War, is in some cases, changing, going back as to a reverse migration. And these places are indeed very attractive. I myself would like to buy a house in a small town on top of the Apennines in somewhere in Italy or in the Balkans, maybe. Let's see what we can find. Even in Turkey could be good. The other question we asked, and I'm going to be changing to that one in 5 seconds. So if you want to answer to the future of small towns, do it right away, is suggest keywords for the next AACCP meeting in 2022. Let's go on to this other one. And here we have a variety of different ideas. Some of them, let's read the big ones. Public spaces is at the core here. Okay, landscape is at the core, but waste and consumption also. Digital twins also. And the issue of decolonizing archaeology. Archaeology has been mostly, not entirely, mostly a colonial activity. So those countries that were colonized were also excavated. The presence of the Pergamon altar in Berlin is an example of this idea. Some countries are claiming back their objects from those from that colonial past. Nevertheless, not only the practical archaeology has been colonizing, but also the discipline itself, but not only archaeology, even history, and the issue of the reification of heritage. So every time you make a copy, even the digital copy, the twin or the survey, and you forget about the original, somehow the value of the original is lost. At least it is transformed into a product, not being anymore an individual with its own soul. And then we have smaller other topics that are being inserted here. Yeni Tarih, which means new history, circular economy, urban countryside, heritage influence, selective paths, grids, contents, Tirana. Maybe that was meant to be somewhere else. Anyhow, it's also a keyword. Tirana, digital collision. So I'm not sure how I can do this, but generate a report that will be shared with the organizers of the next AACP events, which could give some suggestions for the draft of the call for papers, given the fact that these keywords were proposed by the attendees of the AACCP symposium. So maybe they are interested in producing a paper on the above mentioned topic. Sinan has a raised hand. We're almost done. And then we can pass it on to Per, okay? And so he can coordinate another round of opinions. Then finally, the last one, and I'm going to shift to that last one. It is, yes, in which, no, not this one. This is something else. In which city would you like to attend the next AACCP events? Because we might have more than one in 2022. And now this one is the active one. And it seems like unanimously people want to go to Tirana. But we have Ohrid, Macedonia. We got Bari, Rome, Ferrara, Belgrade, Tbilisi, Helsinki, Skopje, Artena, Italy. So these are the proposals coming out from the AACCP symposium. And we shared these polls with all the sessions. We could not share 5 polls per session. So each session had one and then the other one. So in a way, we try to reconnect all those sessions with this shared poll. And that will be it for me. Thank you.
I think we could let Sinan start then. Sinan has raised his hand there.
Yes, thank you, Per. I got a question to Alessandro. Can we see the number of votes for each entry about the topic and the location of the next?
Yeah, of course. I can even tell you which party they vote when they go to the political election, if you're interested in knowing this. I can give you a lot of information, like Secret Service, no problem.
Okay.
Yes, I think it could be a good idea to that we reflect a bit about what should be the future of the AACCP in general, and in particular what we should do in the near future. So we could do a quick round. I do not need half an hour for my final remarks, so we have a little bit more than these 15 minutes. Should we reverse the order, perhaps, Alessandro?
Yes. So
we'll start with Jan then.
Yes. What I'm going to do is share again that that sort of.
We start with Jan.
And go backwards. I don't know how would you do this. Yes.
Jan, please, if you have some ideas or reflections, you must unmute yourself. Yes.
Yes, I have. I've been unmuted. But I think I already kind of summed them up, right? Ideas. I think that I feel that when a lot of you are architects, most of you are architects or people who are involved with urban planning. I think the topic of the diachronic character of the city is so important, especially then when we talk about these historical selections that are often made. I mean, every city is in its own way a historical document, and the city of today is the sum of all the cities that have been there before. And by city, I mean historical moments. So any intervention in an existing urban context that claims to respect the history of a city really has to respect or cannot exclude by definition certain time periods, certain historical moments of that city, I think. Because like that, you, the planner, the architect, even the archaeologist decide that certain historical periods are not important enough, are not worthy enough of being preserved. And I don't think that that is what history and a historical approach to a historical place is about. And then what we have heard, and I think the people who were still there for the Rome discussion have heard that also a lot, is of course the very difficult, because very often not well thought or decided cohabitation between the archaeological evidence and the existing surrounding landscape, and in that case not just urban but also rural. So how to integrate better a ruin with the context of the moment. I think that is maybe a little bit more specific topic, but it's very difficult. You know, we talked about barriers, limits, the fences around the monuments that may be justified by a policy of protection, but in reality separate the monument, the ruin, from the existing landscape around it, and thus in a way also takes it out of it. So these are two things that very quickly come to my mind. Sorry.
Thank you, Jan. I think it was Nicola. Are you still here? Yeah? Are you still here?
No. Oh, yeah, he is here, but I'm not sure if Nicola, are you there? Ped, if you want me to also comment on what pros and cons, yes, I can do that anytime. You just let me know when.
Yeah, you can do it now. Let's see if Nicola emerges. Alessandro.
Okay, pros and cons. Pros. A lot of people. Okay, we have people attending from the Comoros, from the United States, from Japan, from Scandinavia, from different time zones, and that would have not been possible if it wasn't in presence, of course, unless they traveled, and probably not all of them would have traveled to Istanbul, I assume. So that was very good, I should say. Also, what was bad is that we did not have a lot of attendance in the sessions. Basically, the speakers were attending their own session and ciao, goodbye. And that was not good. We actually had 650 addresses of people that either registered for the conference, were authors, keynotes, chairs, panel members, scientific committee, etc. Out of 600 people, 650 people, people that registered for this, average number of people in each session was 40, let's say average, where 15 are the organizers, and 10 are the chairs and the speakers. So basically, each session had 10 people as audience. So 10 out of 650 is, what is it, 1 per 1,000, something like this? It's very low rate. Usually in in my past experience this year, we have done a lot of online events. We go between 15 and 20% of attendance of people who actually registered for something. So we're not sending out a spam. People that did on their own choice, registered to attend the event. The attendance was very low. So I don't know why this happened. I was expecting a little bit more. And so that was a con. Pro, I think we had a really, especially in the last days, a really good discussion. And I do believe that is also one of the consequences of the online environment. If properly handled, and it's not easy, it does enhance communication. What is not simple is handle the online environment to make this happen. And for the future, when you go in the option of being blended, that could be taken into account, because if you conjugate the experience of being in place and touching and eating kofte, drinking wine, and strolling around the city and touching the buildings, but also the having people online attending from New Zealand, that could be, but very positive. But again, in order to make this work properly, it's going to take a lot of work to make it, go flawlessly. So if we go for all blended events in the future, we have to thoroughly think out how to do it, because it's not simple. Trust me, it is not simple. So that does work effectively for what we want. We want it to work to increase communication, exchange, knowledge, knowing people, meeting people. And when you have a number of people in a room and the other one's online, to make the two things go together is possible, but complicated. It takes a lot of effort. Other pro is the topics that came out. I cannot summarize them all, but I would like to underline the issue of the relationship between landscape and artifact. May it be the building, may it be a finding, whatever. So every artifact, building, monument, whatever, has to be always considered within its own landscape for many reasons. One of them that came out within the discussion is that the landscape is not movable. You can move the objects, you can move the buildings, you can move the altar of Pergamon, you can move the columns, the obelisks from Egypt, bring them to Rome and put them in the Piazza San Pietro. You cannot move the landscape. So the landscape is like a stronghold of reification of archaeology and history, because one of the things you cannot move, you can change it, yes, but you cannot move it. There's no way in which you can move the landscape of Finland in Iraq. Maybe in the future, somebody will try to put the landscape of Norway into a capsule and send it to Mars. But for now, usually landscape stays where it is if it can survive the climatic changes that we're going to be facing in the next decades. And the other one is about, landscape as a stronghold for identity and locality. And the other one was the issue of reification as a consequence of the third industrial revolution, the informatic revolution. We're creating copies, twins. We're creating copies of manuscripts, we're creating copies of coins, we're scanning buildings, we're creating 3D models, which is of course very good for the documentation, but we have to be very careful, in my opinion. That was one of the points we addressed within the discussion. When we do this, we don't have to take our eyes off the original, because the original is the real one. The other one is a copy. It's not even necessarily exactly the same, because every process of copying has implicitly a loss of information. So you make a scan of the manuscript, you might lose a little detail of something. So the original is always the real one. Also, whenever you do scans, reproductions, photographs, all that kind of stuff, you're creating a copy of the image, not a copy of the material consistence. So the chemical constitution of the pergamon, of the parchment, of a manuscript that was found, I don't know where, in Athena, let's say, might have information that is not included in the digital scan of that manuscript. The scan of a coin that was found in Soli Pompeiopolis is a very good way of documenting that coin, but does not include the kind of metals that were used for that coin. So that's not the original. The original is the coin. And when we go to the buildings, the same. So, you can reproduce the 3D model of a building, but you cannot reproduce the composition of the mortar or the quality of the stones. The material consistency, and that is very important for history. So, and for archaeology and all those disciplines that are looking, but moreover, it's very important for design, because if you don't have you cannot really design something on the digital copy. You need the real thing, to go there and do the construction. So let's sum it up in reification of heritage, the importance of landscape, and last thing is the importance of design. I'm not saying that other things are not important, but when we look at these archaeological sites, especially the issue of what to do there to make it more beautiful, more usable, more accessible, more integrated within the landscape, what to do also to design properly an exhibition to host and display those fragments that were found in the excavation campaign. That is usually referred to as design. So something we should, in my opinion, look a little bit more into our next call for papers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alessandro. Interesting reflections. I think then, Giorgio Islami, are you here still?
Sorry, we got
Latifa. Yeah, we can. Latifa Sumara, you can begin. You have some reflections for future AACCPs? No.
Okay, thank you.
Just briefly.
I would appreciate very much the topic, the colonization of archaeology, the colonizing archaeology, because this topic is in the current discussion always present, but never really focused. You may have heard about the new discoveries in Egypt, for example, and Egyptian archaeologists, they don't want that foreign archaeologists from former colonizing countries come to study them, and they want to do it themselves. And we have similar attitudes in Turkey too. I think this is a very important topic, the colonizing archaeology. And I would suggest this topic for the next conference.
Thank you. Yes, I can. I have ideas on that topic, but we'll go on thinking about that. A very interesting dimension in that. I think we could even speak about, if we should use this word, decolonizing, we could speak about decolonizing landscape and built environment.
Yeah, for example,
It's important to be inclusive also and think about different types of actors which are interested in the AACCP. Giorgio Islami, are you still here? You have some brief reflections?
I'll be very brief because I see we are in the last minutes. I think a certain attention should be given to landscapes. I agree with the other speakers. I'm referring more to cultural landscapes and to heritage in order to bring all of us together. I mean, this is the successful thing of this kind of activity, I think, to make different disciplines work on the same topics and offer different approaches. So I think cultural landscapes can be a very good point to discuss in the following meeting. And what I'm really interested about, and I think it's something that it's a topic of the future, not said by me, but most of the important architects and theorians of architecture nowadays, is the discussion about the rural that today is more urban than ever. I mean, it's the future of the rural and how it is changing the way we are approaching the territory. So those are the 2 points I must stress for this discussion.
Thank you. I think there is something interesting in this field you are mentioning. I do not think we have sufficient concepts. We always speak about the urban and the rural, but actually in terms of settlement patterns, there is much more. There are many more possibilities. So we should try to broaden our perspective. Anna Linda, you have some short and brief reflections on future AACCP?
Very briefly, because
we can use a bit of my time because
I just will add some keywords which are not related to topics, but I would like to stress some keywords like which came out from this discussion, which are continuity, linkages, and integration. Because if you think in terms of linkages, we can keep together urban and rural, archaeology and archaeological sites and contemporary cities, private and public spaces, for instance, or natural and built environment. So maybe also out of the topics to use some words that can in a way try to reconnect some of the topics that we have discussed about. Maybe this could be useful.
Thank you. I guess it should be nice to have a double there. It could be also the rupture, the discontinuity, or the lack of integration. It's very interesting as topics. I guess, Darko, you're not there, I guess? Oh, no.
No, I don't see him. Let's move on to
Sinan.
Well, I think the topic of landscape can be used to bring together some of the other topics that we already have in the list. Both the rural landscape, the change in the rural settlements, the encroachment of cities into each other, urban landscape, open space, green space discussions, and as well as the archaeological areas and how they are dealt with in this context can be all fit under, if we define it as such, under the umbrella concept of landscape and landscape change, maybe.
Thank you. And next is Seren.
Yes, I was actually pointing out these issues about the landscape, cultural landscape. Yes, that can be a focus point, and also we have, the urban and rural cultural landscapes. But as Per already told, it's much more than rural and urban. So in one of the presentations, there was also the issue of urban villages. So the boundaries, what are the boundaries, the place, the values, the tangible and intangible, the expansion, and the demolition, and the sprawl, the urban growth. So those can be also the issues related to the main topic, the landscape, I guess. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Interesting. Zainab?
So the issue of landscape already have been raised by all of the panelists. So I would also like to raise the issue of the interiors, maybe, because especially in yesterday morning session, if I'm not mistaken, on this Finlandia, the houses of Finland at the aftermath of the Second World War. Plus, we have seen this today from Kotsuke's presentation, this evolutionary theory that is being discussed through the interiors in the beginning, and then why not reflecting it to the urban scale he mentioned. So maybe also it is important for the future AACCPs to include the issue of as a built environment, as a strong connection with the tangible and intangible heritage and cultural heritage, spatial organization, divergences and differences, localizations, internalizations, etc., can also be discussed over the idea of interiors. That's what I'm going to suggest. Thank you, Per.
That's interesting. Inside, outside, what that is. I think Martin wanted to enter. Please, if you want to say, have a suggestion, Martin.
Yeah, I was thinking about some of the lectures that we heard this week, and I wanted strongly to propose broken continuities as a theme that could be interesting to discuss, because we heard, for example, we heard a lecture about Trabzon where the Armenian culture was not mentioned at all. We could discuss the Jewish shtetl in Eastern Europe. We could discuss Polish culture in Ukraine, Ukrainian culture in Poland, or the German culture in Poland. How can heritage that is not of the cultural, is not part of the cultural heritage of political entities as we experience them today, how is this cultural heritage handled, and how can it be handled to help to come over these conflicts that go through our histories? So I thought broken continuities could be an interesting subject for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Giorgio?
Here it goes. Okay. Well, I think that the idea about this balance between a landscape changes in from agricultural to urban, and all in general the historical changes in landscape can be a very good topic. It may work in various environment, and can be a sort of guide. Also, you know that there is the various document according stating the importance of landscape that were being brought in the past, and can be an excellent reference for stating various situations, case studies, and researches. So I think it can be a very good argument to keep together everybody, also because we have various studies that are connected in a strong or indirectly to this kind of topic, and in general linking them to the way the people use or approach to cultural heritage. It can be very, very interesting, because right now, if for sure there is one of the point of strength is the extreme number of countries and nation from where the scholars came from. So they are able to connect various ideas, and obviously sometimes recognizing certain issues in your own home can be harder than studying about them in other places. So for example, some limits or missing parts in certain paper contribution maybe are not by case, but by the general approach there is to the archaeology history of the places, because they are used in general to be proposed, documented, and studied accordingly to the mainstream about the that that stories, and the others are difficult to investigate because poorly documented, or we may say not practical, or not easy to be faced. So the keywords about the reification of heritage as in my opinion, also this aspect, that is the way it can be used to address choices from the political point of view, or telling that this is the best to bring on because is a part of our heritage, but then is only a part of our heritage, and so on. So landscape in its own term, meaning a wide view all over a scenario, can be something that may put together all these things and bring out the various sessions for our next edition. So I fully agreed with it. Then we will see. We can, I think that in the end, having organizing very quickly in the next weeks, and a sort of proposal for the from the who is interested in hosting the next AACCP can be a good idea, putting together the results of the questionnaire from yesterday, and also the records brought from the candidates, and then decide in a short time about where we're going to have next AACCP in 2022, which is a nice number in the end. We have a lot of two.
Exactly. And Lisa, are you there, Lisa?
Yes, I am. First of all, Alessandro, thank you for organizing this poll. It's been a very nice way to collect opinions and suggestions. And what comes to the topics of the next meeting or next future meetings, I think that all these suggestions are very inspiring. And we have had previously sort of a habit to have one big subtitle and or one major title, and beneath that more subtitles and more ideas how to approach the larger topic. And I think we can continue with that. So we have to just elaborate the main title. And then about these meetings, I can easily join all previous speakers that it is really important to meet in person. And it would be, and I think that there's also need to have different kind of encounters and meetings. It was wonderful to have this kind of big meeting with plenty of participants and a large variety of papers. But in the future, we could also think about having a smaller workshops, either included in bigger meetings or separately, where people could join together to discuss certain problems or issues, or even work on certain topics together. And I know that this all needs time and effort, as well as organizing these meetings does. And local organizers do have a major role, and therefore I suggest that quite soon we will agree about the next meeting, about the location of the next meeting, and organizing team of the next meeting. But I will also suggest that we could have a sort of suggestions for 2 successive meetings, so that the organizers of the meeting could have some time and ability to possibly compose a team or even raise money if that is needed. So not only 1 meeting, but perhaps 2 meetings.
Yes, I think that is something we have discussed before, so that is an interesting idea to develop it. And then Giorgio, then I will just say some few words after you.
Sorry, a note about the intervention from Lisa, because I think that we should consider 2 different speed for the 2 meetings, because in the end, what happens that probably, in my opinion, it makes sense to have the double meeting, especially when it's possible to have at least the smaller one in presence, because otherwise it is a little bit limited, and having a small meeting online can be just one more online meeting. So it lost the possibilities to have a direct exchange of ideas and so on. It makes a little difference in all the relationships. So I think that it can be something that maybe we will have a easier scenario probably in September or around there, when we will see how is going the general situation. I think we are going to have things hopefully better and better in the European area. So we can see. Instead, if we have this idea about blending or solution with the option to move totally online, the large event may happen anywhere. Obviously, there are some features that need to be planned in time, because and so it needs more time to be organized, and so it's better to have it with the final location and the range of option. I think no later than maybe September or October this year, just to allow everybody to work with time on it, just to announce it and give it time. And instead, the smaller one can be just before or immediately after, and it can be announced in a very narrow amount of time, because in the end it's a small amount of people taking part. Just to say this.
Yes, that's good. And all these things we must ponder and think about them. But Alessandro?
Yes, just to say one thing, that in the Middle Ages, in the time of the establishment of guilds, we have these guilds of stone cutters or masons, you know, and very often in their statutes we read magistri latomorum, masters of stone, especially opposing themselves to magistri literarum, masters of letters. So I suggest that one of the two meetings, probably the small one, should not be a meeting of rhetoric, but it should be a field meeting. So the big meeting is discussing papers, and the small one should be field work. May it be landscape, may it be an archaeological site, may it be a restoration, but more of a hands-on experience rather than a philosophical discussion, which is also very useful. So magistri latomorum opposed to magistri literarum, masters of stone.
Send us a mail with these concepts if you remember them. Thank you, Alessandro. We will be back on all these issues. I should say some few words. I would like to thank all participants. Not so many of us are present here now, but I would like to thank everybody who has participated in the conference. It is actually the participants who are the most important thing in a symposium or in a congress. And we have had very good participants, those who have contributed with papers, those who have contributed to discussion, and those who have listened. We hope they have benefited from listening and seeing us. So thanks to all participants. We have seen here a range of possible key words: reified, decolonizing, landscape. I would say also, I feel that the concept of continuity and the concept of rupture are in the air. And I think we should have both in that case. And we have this thing about what is outside, what is inside, which is, I think, extremely interesting. What in each situation is inside, what is blocking out people, and what is including people, and so on. Where are these limits, and how do they operate? It's a very interesting topic, of course. And that is also something that we many times can see in an entire landscape. We could give a lot of examples on that. I find all these concepts very interesting. We'll see if we can construct some sentences that cover at least a lot of them. I always also think, because it's so often, and I do not criticize that, but because of the fact that heritage management includes trying to get money, and this is often a question of getting good arguments for defending the heritage. It often turns out in discussions on how to make things cozy and interesting and fun and good, and that's nice. I mean, but we have also actually physical environments that are rather horrible, unheimlich, temporarily or for long time periods, and there are concrete, very palpable things that could be horrible. We spoke about the chemical horrors that can exist in a landscape, for example, even bombs or other things, but even less dramatic things can be destructive in the landscape. But we have also a sort of what's called a psychological dimension. We have this concept from Freud, unheimlich, which is so difficult to translate to English. It's often called unhomely, which is also a dimension of some that often relates indirectly to space. So that is also an interesting dimension in all these discussions that we are having. And it is easy to relate that to concepts like decolonizing, reification, and so on. And this inside-outside discussion, of course. So I think that we could construct something very interesting here if we think of it. So that is a big possibility for the next event. It's very important that we are inclusive. We should still be interested in this wide range of different kinds of contributions, from just traditional narratives on the historical development or prehistorical development somewhere, on contemporary questions of management issues, digital documentation, other kinds of documentation, more philosophical questions, and very much hands-on questions of the physical landscape and so on. All these dimensions. And in the landscape, I would like to integrate these questions of the earthquakes and the volcano, for example. But there are so many important things, and we should keep the doors open. We must also think not only for the next year's AACCP. I think we should start planning more ahead. And I think it is important that we also meet in some of the classical heavy countries in Western Europe, like Germany, as Alessandro just suggested, and of course France. And we should try to make that possible in the future. And here we receive a lot of congratulations from different parts. Alessandro receives a congratulation from Wolfgang Benner for the very successful conference. So it's evident that this meeting of the AACCP has been a success beyond any kind of doubt. And I think that we should talk about things that could be improved. I would not like to talk about them as problems necessarily, but things that could be improved. We have a lack of archaeologists. We are underrepresented. So we should work a little bit more trying to include archaeologists. And one important and interesting side effect with this Istanbul AACCP is that even those people who have not chosen to even write and ask to be on the list of the 650 have discovered the AACCP. The homepage has attracted attention, and even, for example, if I look at my close colleagues who never before had any sort of interest in the AACCP suddenly has discovered that this is something important and interesting. So I think that we will have an increased interest from archaeologists in the future. So that is actually an interesting side effect of this conference. And people are intrigued about what it is and how it works. And, and of course, then there is a new field of discussion. These are things that we cannot resolve now, but we can start thinking about them. Giorgio, Lisa and I, we are much in favor of not formalizing things too much, to keeping it to a minimum, all the administration, and avoiding to make it a very sterile, formalized organization. But if we really attract such an enormous lot of people, perhaps in the future we should think about at least do some minimal effort to have, for example, some information on a homepage somewhere or something like that. So that is also an issue that we must address in the future. But for that, we need some minimal funding, even if it's not a lot of money. So that is also something that opens for the future. And I do think that this idea of having within the framework of the AACCP, we should be able to do different kinds of activities. So the AACCP could participate in different kinds of activities and also have different activities on their own. And I think we should be fairly open. I think we could have workshops which are operated like this, more or less, but a small group and a more defined topic. We can have that kind of meetings Alessandro addressed here, which would be very interesting if they could be realized in the future. Something more direct, something in which we really are out in a landscape and work with a particular issue. That would be very interesting, I think. And of course, we could have certain events that are like this, larger. But I think that in all types of contexts and situations, the dialogue, the discussion, the acceptance of the fact that people will have different opinions and that is a positive thing, that is not a problem, that will help all of us to think better. Either we will find good contra-arguments, or we will discover that we were wrong in a discussion. So it's never a problem if people have different opinions, as long as we stay friends and argue in a kind and good manner. So the fact that we have different opinions should never be considered a difficulty for the AACCP. We will have different opinions about many things. We are actually addressing issues that are, in many instances, they have, I should rather say, they have a potential of being dynamite. So we must be aware of this. It is not a sort of neutral field. Suddenly one can encounter a mine and an exploding bomb or something when we address certain topics. It's very strange to see how buildings at times becomes objects for hate. We all know several such examples. A famous example is the destruction of the Giorgio Mosque in India in the 1990s. I participated in some academic events related to that, and it was extremely dense and tense and difficult. It was impossible to discuss in a normal manner. Another case which I find intriguing is when the Nazis in 1943 decided to dynamite away 2/3 of the old town of Marseille. In 1943, I think that if you are engaged in a world war, you should need the dynamite for other things, not for blowing up medieval buildings. It is a sort of absurdity to find the medieval buildings in Marseille as a major enemy to attack. And of course, they were very systematic. They succeeded in demolishing 2/3 of the old town in Marseille. It is an absurdity. And of course, the fact was that certain groups of the resistance had certain meetings and hid in these alleys and small streets. But that is not an argument against the buildings. So they ordered an evacuation of the whole area, which was carried out by the Vichy police. 10,000 people were evacuated during one night. It's a gigantic operation. It's an enormous amount of resources. And the next step was to put out the dynamite and to explode everything. It's a gigantic amount of resources in the middle of a war. And I think if they had been rational, they should have used all these resources to attack the true military enemy and not attacking the medieval buildings of the old town of Marseille. But we should be aware of the fact that in certain situations, these environments become something which are beyond themselves. And of course, they are reified to the extreme and becomes an object which is identified with the thing of the enemy. So that is absolutely something that we could never forget. And we must be aware that such discussions can appear in many different contexts. Over time, if we look at it at a long time perspective, we can see that they have appeared in the most varied contexts. So that is something that we must be prepared for. For my part, as I always insist, a true human environment, a human-built environment, consists of vestiges from different time periods, which represent different ways of thinking originally and which are very different in design and organization. And that is what is a human environment. If it's only one type of thinking that is represented in the architecture in some way or another, it is not a human environment. So that is a sort of basic idea which I think we should carry on with us in the AACCP and try to stick to as much as we can. I think that was what I wanted to say right now. What was the thought? We should have a film, Alessandro?
Well, yeah.
Yes, so stay with us because we're going to bring you in the...
I would like to end saying, of course, that I look forward to meet everybody at future AACCP meetings, and I look forward to read the publication of this symposium. Thank you.
Tack, Per. Stay with us. We're going to bring you in a boat trip. No, not really, a virtual. But if we had the conference in Istanbul, we would have done very romantic boat trip, okay, as the concluding event. So this is a recorded guided tour that we had to do because of the lockdown. So we cannot move out of our houses now in Turkey. That was prepared by a very wide group of people cooperating: Sera Tolgay, Apostolos Poridis, Korhan Gumush, Deria Tolgay, Pelin Gunay. And it's entitled A Virtual Memory Tour Through the Cultural Landscape of Buyukada Greek Orphanage in the Sea of Marmara. Now, we do have the bios of all those people, and somebody wants to introduce them. Maybe Pelin, you want to do that?
Yeah,
or Zainab, maybe, because Zainab you're included, so maybe somebody else, or maybe you can read them all except yourself, and Zainab can read yours. Okay.
Zainab Hocam, would you like to start?
I'm going to read all of them since I'm not in there. So let's begin with Serhat Olgay. So Serhat Olgay is an urban designer and planner with a background in environmental sciences and urban restoration ecology. She's a designer at Scape, where she collaborates with architects, engineers, and planners on adaptive infrastructure, landscape, and master planning projects for climate adaptation. She also worked for the New York City Department of City Planning on developing design guidelines for resilient reconstruction along the city's waterfront after Hurricane Sandy. She's interested in how the fields of urban design and planning can incorporate lessons from climate science and environmental history to respond to the climate crisis, and has researched public access to the waterfront and histories of water urbanism in Istanbul through the AHAN program at MIT. Sarah studied environmental policy and science at Yale University and holds a dual degree in urban planning and SMArch from MIT. We also have Apostolos Poridis. So Apostolos Poridis was born in Istanbul in 1966. He graduated from Yıldız University Faculty of Architecture, Department of Architecture. He completed his master's program at the same university. In 1999, he received his architectural doctoral degree from, again, Yıldız Technical University. He started working as an architect in the Istanbul Greek Patriarchate in 1994 and is still working as technical office manager. He started working as an assistant professor at Istanbul Özyeğin University at Faculty of Engineering and Architecture, Department of Architecture in 2013, and is still continuing this duty. He's married and has a child. And next, please, Korhan Gümüş. Korhan Gümüş is an architect born in Istanbul. He graduated from St. Joseph's College. He received his undergraduate diploma from Mimar Sinan Güzel Sanatlar University and his doctorate qualification from Istanbul University. He sees design as an independent field of research and experimentation outside of market conditions and official institutions, and studies the possibilities of its scientific practices. It strives to question the transformation of professionalism and symbolic production into a presentation of identity and to understand their rights in the complexities of human and inhuman entities. He thinks that the basis of inequity is dichotomies such as nature, culture, and distinctions such as mental and non-mental. It focuses on subjectivity rather than the concept of agency. He has published numerous articles and interviews about architecture and has been involved in many independent urban civic movements. He made city-themed radio programs for 25 years and gave lectures and conferences at various universities. Derya Tolgay, after working 32 years in her own design studio, she started working with non-governmental organizations on projects about urban activism. As a member of the World Heritage Islands Initiative, she organizes memory tours of Princess Islands, works for the islands to be included in the UNESCO World Heritage List, and in this context prepares the World Heritage Islands program on open radio. And finally, you all know Pelin Günay. Pelin Günay is a member of Özyeğin University who holds a bachelor's degree in industrial design and technology from Brunel University. If I may, I will cut it a little bit short, Pelin Günay. I don't want to be disrespectful, just you have already been introduced several times. And Pelin is currently a PhD candidate in Özyeğin University Design, Technology and Society Department. And her study is about interpersonal interactions with public spaces through mediation of products and services.
Yeah. Thank you, Zainab Hocam.
Thank you, Pelin.
So basically, I will start with the virtual guided tour. So it will go as follows. Like Sarah Tolgay, she will give a presentation about the general Sea of Marmara first, just like for 5 minutes. And then we will have a tour starting from the PR of Büyükada towards the Greek towards orphanage. Thank you. the Greek orphanage for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And during that time, the video will be in Turkish, but I will try my best to translate it into Turkish in English, like simultaneously. And then we will be having a detailed introduction about the orphanage. We can go inside and you'll be having the English subtitles during that session for 15 minutes. So I'll be sharing the screen now, the video. Yep. You can all see, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to our virtual memory tour through the cultural landscape of the Büyükada Principal Greek Orphanage in the Sea of Marmara. This is the last day of the conference, so thank you for...
It's frozen though.
And all
we can hear it, but
in person in these days of the pandemic when they're locked down.
Okay, that's fine. Maybe when you share your screen, you may turn off your camera. Maybe it will work better.
Pelin, is the video in the folder of the shared folder?
No, because it's a huge file. I didn't put it on. I'm just opening it up again.
So due to the time issues, due to the lockdown, it was very limited to spend time on it, to upload and download and edit. So thank you, Pelin, for your efforts.
Thank you, Hocam. 2 seconds, it'll be here.
Take your time.
So. Yeah, is it good now?
Yes.
Hello and welcome to our virtual memory tour through the cultural landscape of the Büyükada Principal Greek Orphanage in the Sea of Marmara. This is the last day of the conference, so thank you for joining us. And although it would have been wonderful to show you the islands in person in these days of the pandemic when there are lockdowns in Turkey, we hope that we can still transport you to a different time and sense of place. So I'm Farah Tolgay, I'm an urban planner, and I will do a short introduction and then hand it over to our guides, Dr. Apostolos Poridis, who is with the architecture department of Istanbul Esenyurt University and also an architect for the Istanbul Greek Patriarchate, and Korhan Gümüş, an architect and with the Dünya Miras Adalar Princess Islands World Heritage Association, and Derya Tolgay, who is with the same association and also a radio host for Açık Radio, open radio station. So I will show you a short clip taken from the top of the islands to give you a preview. And I'll do a kind of overview of what the islands are like and the building that you're about to see in the tour. So the Princess Islands archipelago. As you can see, is 2 kilometers off of Istanbul's Asian shores and have offered freedom and isolation from the mainland metropolis for centuries, and historically have been a refuge for artists, writers, and thinkers. Has also been a place of architectural experimentation, from the eclectic styles of wooden mansions to some of the best work of modernist masters. Its ecology and cultural heritage is also a remarkable mix of the Mediterranean microclimate in the middle of the Sea of Marmara, which is a key intercontinental migration route for migratory birds that travel from Eastern Europe to North Africa, and also for marine life, like dolphins and other fish that travel from the Black Sea to the warmer Mediterranean. What's important about the cultural heritage and landscape of the islands is that it's made by its residents as well, who have brought through the different centuries, different plants from throughout the Mediterranean, which have over time started to coexist with the native mucky ecosystems that you can see here, and also the red pine forest. However, today, if we switch to sort of a side view, the islands, we follow here, you start to see Istanbul in the background. They have been under pressure of development, and you can also observe this as increasing frictions between the locals and visitors, and the fragile ecology and evolving patterns of urbanism that are more and more similar to that of Istanbul. The islands present an opportunity to retreat and reconceptualize these issues, however, and also approach kind of this with more hopeful aspirations. And this is why civil society organizations like Dünya Miras Adalar, the World Heritage Association for the Princess Islands, is at the forefront of efforts for researching and making visible the cultural heritage of the islands as a core identity moving forward. And this has included providing technical expertise and research products to the local government and municipality for a nomination to the World Heritage List of UNESCO. And here you can see another island resident saying hello to us. The Principal Greek Orphanage is considered the largest wooden building in Europe, and I'll just fast forward and start to see the building from far away in a second. It is the largest wooden building in Europe and the second largest in the world. It was built in 1899 and designed by French architect Alexandre Valéry. It has a very impressive grand hall that it's still visible, and you'll see this in the tour as our guides go inside the building. But unfortunately, the building was closed in 1964, and I think this is an important phase of the island's history that needs to be mentioned. That period of abandonment since the 1950s, with the exodus of the local Rum population and other minorities in the 50s. And here you can see the building. It's quite massive and visible from different parts of the island. Here we're on one of the taller hills. It's also visible from around the city. Damaged by a fire in the 1980s, today the building is at a risk of collapse, unfortunately, and is exposed to adverse weather conditions and is in immediate risk. In fact, Europa Nostra recognized the Principal Orphanage complex as one of the 7 most endangered cultural monuments in Europe. And we think that the role of civil society in sort of both showing you and the public this cultural heritage, but also being partners in rethinking and reshaping this unwritten future is very fundamental. So thank you for joining us in this journey, and we hope you enjoy the tour. Thank you.
So we go on with the images, the video from the Büyükada. Starting from the ferry, you get off from the ferry and you see the clock tower in front of you. And that's like one of the most famous structures of Büyükada. And can you hear my voice, by the way? Is it?
Yes, but maybe you can lower down the voice of the video.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It will be better.
Yeah. Is this good?
Better, yes, better.
Okay. So basically, anyone who gets on Büyükada, they will have to have a picture with the clock tower. And they say that that's the only proof that you have. I mean, that's the proof that you've been there. It was built in 1857.
Güzün. Şimdi saat meydanı 1857'lerde yapılıyor. Bu şekilde kayıtlar da var. Özellikle bu turumuzda Akilas Milas'ın
And there's a really rich resource about Prinkopo, which I can also provide you later on, written by Akilas Milas. And this is like one of the fundamental books of this tour. This is, interestingly enough, is not actually built as a clock tower at the beginning, but as like an off-license liquor store for a private person called Sagridos. And in years, it has actually evolved into the clock tower. It was initially made from wood, and then it turned, now it's like made of stone. And the line that you actually see there, I mean, the area, actually, the sea was actually coming until there until 1867. So the sea was actually right there. And the area in between was filled up after being bought by a French businessman. All the structures following that area was built afterwards, including the pier.
Ve diğer bu bölüm tamamıyla dolgu alanı üzerine yapılıp bayağı bir ticari alan elde edilmiş oluyor. Şimdi tabii bir de bu meydanın bir süreci var. 1894 depreminde
that area, the open plan space actually got heavily damaged by the earthquake in 1894. And one of the buildings that got highly damaged was also Panagia Church, that you can actually see over there when you move from the left after the pier. And this area that you can see actually was the meeting point of horse carriages until recently. And I don't remember which date it was, but in recent years, like a year ago or two, it was all demolished in one day and all the horse carriages were gone. But now there are some buses and like motors going around. There's a small church right in front when you walk towards the street that is shown now.
Dönüşüyor. Bu gördüğünüz meydanda da daha da öncesine gidebilirsek kayıtlarda ulaşabildiğimiz bu bölgenin, yani o küçük kilisenin olduğu taraftan bu bölge ve Çınar Meydanı'na uzanan bir mezarlık bölgesi
it seems
var.
to be there seems to be a cemetery like long time ago around that area that she has been showing to you now, between the bus station and the other side of the street, but it has evolved into the current situation now.
Öyle minik bir mahalle. Ve burada da yangın geçiriyor. Sonrasında
this place also has been through a fire.
Burada Panaya Kilisesi'nin bir bölümü de
and that's the Panaya church over there on the left.
Devam edelim. Ben size küçük kiliseyi göstereceğim.
And she's moving towards the other church now.
Bu küçük kilisede o dönem yıkılıp yerine evet, bu arada gördüğünüz gibi faytonlar gitti ama bir dolu böyle her yerde görebileceğiniz plastik donanımlı, sesleri çok
the horse carriages are gone, but those are the mostly found transportation system that is used now in the islands, that little motorcycle thing. Sorry, I missed that.
İstanbul fethinden evvel Kaptanı Derya, Baltoluoğlu Süleyman.
Oops. That's made. That was built before the before 1453.
Bu yolun devamı, dümdüz devam edeceğiz. Aşağı yukarı 25 dakika sürecek. Hristos Manastırı'na, yetimhaneye giden yol.
As you go through that road, it will last around like 25 minutes until you get to the orphanage, the Greek orphanage, and the Hristos Hill.
Kadıyoran yokuşuna tırmanıyoruz şu anda.
That's the Kadıyoran hill that we're going through now,
Oradan da yetimhaneye.
and that which will be leading to the orphanage.
Şimdi
And that's a really cute old building.
burada gördüğünüz yapı İskenderiye Patriği 3. Sofronios'un yazlık eviymiş.
It belongs to the
zamanında. Sonra 1922'de
it belongs to the Iskandariya, I don't know how to call that, one of the patriarchies, summer house, no, not.
Mektep olarak.
Let me just give that right, the name.
Yes, the summer house, exactly.
The summer house of
Sophronios, the patriarchate of Iskandariya. What was the English name for Iskandariya? I don't remember. Alexandria.
Okay. Thank you.
Fazla değişiklik olmuş. Burada tabii zamanda hep köşkler varken her biri değişime uğramış ve yerine apartmanlar yapılmış.
These buildings are going under a lot of changes now. Like it used to be like one floor old buildings, but now they're turning into apartments, which is quite a pity. This is
örneğin burada
one of the examples that was preserved well.
Kesicisin 1870'lerdeki evinden bahsedilir. Bu Pavlo Bey banker ve çok varlıklı biri. Zamanında onun köşkünden bahsediliyor burada, fakat hangisi olduğunu gerçekten ben bilmiyorum.
There's one.
O kadar büyük
there's a famous building of a banker, but she cannot really pinpoint to which one it is now. But it's one of those buildings.
Örneğin bu yapı belli ki yıkılmış.
This was remade recently
betonarme olarak yapılmış.
With cement. You can see beneath.
Bu Pavlos Bey oldukça hayırsever biriymiş. O açıdan da önemli bilgileri, çünkü yani Harun kadar zengin olduğu söyleniyor bu kişinin. Ve o büyük depremde, 1800'lerin sonundaki depremde Heybeliada Ruhban Okulu'nu, Aya Nicola Manastırı'nı, Şişli Rum Mezarlığı'nı, Metamorfosis Kilisesi'nin inşaat malzemelerine ve inşasına tekrardan
the banker that she was actually mentioning before about I don't remember his name, but if Zainab hocam can help me out, I don't remember. The banker, he seems to be helping out with all the buildings around in Büyükada financially to build it. If I can get the name.
Pavlos Bey,
yeah,
I think. So the idea is Büyükada is a summer resort. The houses, the mansions, the köşks, all these houses were mainly, well, it wasn't originally a summer resort, of course. It was a small island, no, not big island, with a small settlement of a Greek village. But then at the 19th century, it turned to be a summer resort for the various communities, especially wealthy communities of Istanbul. Also the foreigners, the Europeans, the travelers who come to Istanbul, they also spend time in Prinkipo for the summers. Actually, in the Ottoman archives, it is the Crete ferman also was claimed every year that you are allowed to move to the island, to the summer resorts in May, and then you can come back to the city in September or October. So there were times dedicated to move from the city to this summer resort island, Principo. And this road that Derya Tolgay is walking towards the Greek orphanage, Kadıyoran Yokuşu, is the steep, is the road dedicated to the Kadı, the clergy, the low clergy of the island. Kadıyoran makes the Kadı exhausted because it's so steep and it's so long. The name of the street was taken after this, actually, the road which exhausts the Kadı.
Bunların sıra sıra dizildiği çok popüler bir yer. İşte bu bahçesinde bir dans pisti olduğunu biliyoruz ve halen de bu dans pisti duruyor. Ama gördüğünüz gibi otlarla...
So this is actually used to be a dance stage.
Dancing floor, yeah.
Yeah.
Demin geçtiğimiz bir yapı daha var. O da burası. Gördüğünüz gibi oldukça bakımsız, bakılmamış bir yapı. Bu da Aranavopoulos evleri olarak bilinen, tabii kaynağımız tekrar belirtelim, Akilas Milas.
I'll be sharing the book of Akilas Milas with you if you're interested in.
Yes.
He explains in detail about the houses and the roads in Principo.
And there are many detailed drawings, sketches, and cadastral information in Akilas Milas' book on Principo. Not only on Principo, actually, also about the other Princess Islands we can find information. The idea, well, the main problem here is that the maintenance of the buildings, the houses, especially the wooden ones, you see it's forbidden to enter because it is hazardous. I mean, it has a danger to fall out. And probably it's going to disperse in the end, actually, because there is no maintenance, nobody looks after them.
And probably because there is like no permission of... actually, nobody knows who they belong to, or
yes, some houses, yes, some properties have this issue as well.
Who?
Yes.
Let me just
yes, please.
Gördüğünüz gibi terk edilen, bakılmayan evler. Budur. Cevat Şakir de burada birçok kez misafirliğe gelmiştir.
No, he's not the owner. He came here for the visitation. No problem. Let's continue. Let's continue. Let's arrive at the Greek orphanage. Slowly.
Yaşamış önemli ailelerden biri. Ailenin önemli fertlerinin birçoğunun da mezarları buradadır. Şimdi bu yolun devamında oldukça önemli bir kişi daha yaşamış. Esasında bu evlerin tabii birçoğunda önemli kişiler yaşamış. Kadıyoran'ın tepelerine geldik artık. Burada önemli şahsiyetler yaşamıştır derken bunlardan biri de Amerikan Büyükelçisi Samuel Solomon Cox. Burada
This building is the house of the American
2,5
Ambassador.
Ambassador Samuel Cox.
Akilas Milas'la birlikte Gündüz Vassaf da vardı. Yürürken bize buradaki anılarını anlatmıştı Akilas Milas ve bu evi işaret etmişti. Zaten romanını okuduğunda göreceksiniz. Anlatıma çok çok uyuyor. Özellikle ön tarafında bahçe gerçekten harikulade. Tabii manzara da aynı şekilde. Şimdi izin alarak buradaki sevgili dostlarımızdan evin içini size kısacık göstereceğim.
Lucky that we are entering that house. Perfect.
için mor salkımları bahar geldi ama bir türlü gelemedi.
I'm going fast. Yeah.
Anda göremiyorsunuz ama seyrine doyum olmaz. Şimdi romanında daha doğrusu bahsettiği o içerideki manzarayı da ben size kısacık
So it's very important and unique experience to enter one of these houses because they are private property. And it's hard to enter into the inside of these houses.
Kitabında anlattığı o evin bir parçası olarak bu özellikle manzarasını da göstermek istiyorum. Gerçi hava biraz bugün kapalı ama demin de gösterdiğim
thanks to the topography of the island, you can always have a scenery, very pleasuring scenery, either of the woods or the sea.
Bir de evin orijinal olarak kalan parçaları var sanıyorum.
These are the original pieces from the house, actually.
Onların kullandığı eşyalar olması lazım. Piyano,
yes.
Bir konsol. Samuel Sullivan Cox'un oturduğu ev olduğunu tahmin ettiğimiz.
It's supposed to be the house that Samuel Cox, the American ambassador at the late 19th century, used to reside in this house in summers.
Balkonu, üst kattan gördüğü Asya manzarasını, o harikulade bahçeyi.
The gardens also very important in the lives of the islanders, Principe and all the Princess Islands, and actually the plants, the trees, the flowers that are brought to the islands are in various different parts of the world. They are rather exotic, and so this is the book of.
Bir yerde de bir alıntı yapmak istedim.
It's already recorded, Pelin. It's already
Sorry?
recorded. It's recorded. Go on. Let's continue. No, I mean, don't go back. I meant, but anyway. Yes.
Toprak içerisinde yeniden başladığında tüm bu karmaşanın ve yaşam kaynağının arasında anılarımızdaki Principe'nin keyfine sığınacağız.
I'll share this resource with you.
Yes, thank you.
Kalplerimiz her zaman onda.
The cats of Istanbul, as well as Principe, is also very famous. There is also a recent documentary on cats, which was awarded in various international film festivals. That's named Kedi, Turkish cat. So it's very important in the urban life, actually, of Istanbul and the islands.
Burası Hristos Tepesi'nde bu manastır ve adaların diğer tepelerinde bulunan Metamorphosis manastırlarının yerleri gibi muhteşem bir peyzaj içinde.
So this is the monastery on the Hristos hill of Büyükada. You see it's a mixed building, masonry and wooden mix type of building.
Seçiyorlarmış. Kayıtlarda 1158'e gidiliyor. Altın mühürlü fermanda bu manastır ima edilir diyor sevgili Akilas Milas.
They say that this goes back to 1100 years, 1158. There's a book that mentions it back then, apparently.
Well, actually, the history of Prinkipo, the existence in the history, the existence of Prinkipo in the history dates back to the Byzantium times. It was a place for expulsion. The palace for the people from Byzantium palace, when they were expelled, they were exiled to the island. So we know this from the historic documents that some princes and princesses and some people of the palace forced to reside here.
And then it became a summer house place somehow.
Yes, of course.
1975'e kadar ayakta kalıyor bu yapı ve sonrasında da bu bir zamanlar İsa Tepesi'nde Yarin Kilisesi olarak yapılan yerden kalanlar. Yetimhaneye vardık.
This is the orphanage building.
Tepesi, diğer adıyla İsa Tepesi. Kültürel mirasın korunmasına yönelik çalışmalarıyla bilinen sivil toplum kuruluşu Europa Nostra tarafından 2018 Kültür Miras Yılı kapsamında tehlike altındaki 7 dünya mirası arasında gösterilen Büyükada Rum Yetimhanesi. Evet. Merhaba. Merhaba.
Okay, we see it from the video right now, but the real experience is something more amazing than that, of course.
Büyükada'da Christos Tepesi'nde bulunan Büyükada Rum Yetimhanesi binasındayız şu anda. Binayı anlatmaya başlamadan önce konumundan bahsedelim isterseniz. Büyükada'nın Christos Tepesi'nde denize hakim bir yükseklikte bulunan bir binadır. 1898-1899 yılları arasında çok hızlı bir şekilde ahşap olarak inşa edilmiştir. Binanın mimarı Alexander Valori'dir. Alexander Valori İstanbul doğumlu ve İstanbul'da pek çok eser bırakmış bir saray mimarıdır. Bırakmış olduğu eserler arasında Uygun Umumiye binası, Pera Palace Oteli, Osmanlı Bankası binası sayılabilir. Kendisi Doğu ile Batı değerlerini bir arada yorumlayarak eklektik tarzda eserler bırakmıştır. Rum Yetimhanesi binası yapılırken aslında bir otel olarak tasarlanmıştır. Özgün ismi Prinkipo Palace Oteli'ydi. Bir otel ve kumarhane olarak düşünülen bina, Avrupa'da Şark Ekspresi hattını işleten Vagonli firması tarafından finanse edilmiştir. Pera Palace Oteli'ne de sahip olan bu firma, Büyükada'nın gösterişli bir konumunda o dönem için bir hayal olan lüks bir otel ve kumarhane, kazino binası yapmak istemişti. Görüldüğü gibi bu görüşü ve bu düşüncesi tamamlanamamış ve Sultan II. Abdülhamit tarafından gerekli izinler verilmediğinden dolayı otel olarak işletmeye açılamamıştır. Bunun üzerine binanın işlevlendirilmesi için yeni bir takım arayışlar yapılmış ve 1902'lerde yetimhane olarak değerlendirilmesi görüşüne varılmıştır. O zaman merhum banker Giorgio Zarifis'in dul eşi Eleni Zarifi ile Andrea Singru burayı Vagon Lee şirketinden almak için finansör olmuşlar ve burayı satın alarak Rum Patrikhanesi'ne yetimhane olarak hibe etmişlerdir. Burada şunu vurgulamak gerekiyor. Eleni Zarifi, bu hareketin öncüsü olan Eleni Zarifi, Giorgio Zarifi'nin dul eşiydi. Giorgio Zarifis ise Sultan II. Abdülhamid'in hem kişisel dostu hem de kişisel finans danışmanıydı. Bir bankerdi kendisi. Burada Eleni Zarifi'nin devreye girip bu sürecin içinde olması tesadüfi değildir. ...21 Mayıs 1903 tarihinde yapılan bir törenle yetimhane hizmete açıldı. İlk açıldığında 146 öğrencisi bulunuyordu. Sultan Abdülhamit bizzat kendisi kendi bütçesinden katkıda bulunarak 1180 altın ödeyerek binanın alım, satım, harç ve vergilerini üstlenmişti. Ayrıca bina ilk açıldığında maddi bağışta bulunmuş ve saray mutfağından da günlük olarak belli bir miktar etin yetimler için tahsis edilmesini buyurmuştu. Bu perspektiften baktığımız zaman aslında yetimhanenin bir Abdülhamit tarafından desteklenen bir proje olduğu öne çıkmaktadır. Yetimhane yıllarına girdiğimiz zaman, değindiğimiz zaman binanın hiçbir zaman randımanlı kullanılamadığını görüyoruz. Şöyle ki bina yazlık bir otel olarak tasarlanmış ve ısıtma sisteminden yoksundu. Binanın zemin katı ile birinci ve ikinci katlarının sınırlı bir bölümü kullanıma açılmışlardı. Sadece güney cephesine bakan kısımlar kullanılıyordu. Binanın girişi kuzey cephesindedir. 4 tane sütun tarafından desteklenen kapalı, üst üste binmiş kapalı çıkmalarla gölgelenmiş, korunmuş bir sahanlıktan içeriye girilmektedir. Cepheye baktığımız zaman Valori'nin oryantalist ve eklektik üslup özelliklerini bir arada görebiliyoruz. Bina mimari olarak doğu-batı aksı üzerinde bulunan ana koridorların çevresindeki mekanlardan oluşmaktadır. Bu doğu-batı aksı giriş aksına göre dik konumda bulunmaktadır. Yetimhane dönüşümünden sonra sağımızda ve solumuzda bulunan odalar, müdüriyet ve yönetim odaları olarak kullanılmışlardır. Bu ilk bölümden, ilk antreden içeriye girdiğimiz zaman giriş aksına dik yönde konumlanmış 2 sıra 4'er sütun ile karşılaşıyoruz. Bu sütunlar otelin ana salonu ya da giriş holü olarak niteleyebileceğimiz mekanı 2'ye bölmektedir. Giriş tarafındaki sütunlardan giriş tarafında olan mekan üst katlara bağlantı sağlayan kare planlı 4 kollu ahşap merdivenin bir antresi konumundayken öbür kısım ise sağ ve sol tarafa yani doğu ve batı yönüne uzanan koridorların bir uzantısı ve birleşim noktası görevi görmektedir. Yetimhane yıllarında karşıda görmüş olduğumuz 3 tane mekan ve yan mekanlar yönetim kurulu, toplantı salonu ve derslik olarak değerlendirilmişlerdir. Sol tarafa yöneldiğimiz zaman yani doğu tarafına doğru döndüğümüz zaman koridor aksının kısa olduğunu görüyoruz. Çünkü onun nihayetinde otelin büyük balo salonu ya da daha sonra benzer bir işlevle kullanılmış olan müsamere salonuyla karşılaşıyoruz. Müsamere salonu topografik özelliklerden faydalanılarak bodrum kat ve zemin katın yüksekliği boyunca devam etmektedir. Şu anda müsamere salonunun ortasındaki ana locada bulunuyoruz. Karşımızda zeminden 80 santim yükseklikte olan bir sahne bulunmaktadır. Ana locanın sağında ve solunda bulunan birer ahşap merdivenle bodrum katındaki tiyatro zeminine inilebilmektedir. Sağımızda, solumuzda ve karşıda sahnenin sağında ve solunda birer loca bulunmaktadır. Karşıdaki localara içerideki yarım sarmal ahşap merdivenlerle çıkılırken giriş tarafındaki localara ise yan tarafta bulunan kapılardan girilmektedir. Süsleme olarak ve süsleme elemanlarına baktığımız zaman binanın geneline hakim olan yalın ve dönemin modası olan ağır süsleme elemanlarından arınmış olduğunu fark ediyoruz. Sütun ile kirişlerin bağlantı noktalarındaki yalın diyebileceğimiz ahşap payandalar ile onların nihayetindeki bir takım rokoko desenli süslemeler buranın göze çarpan yegane süsleme elemanlarıdır. Bu süslemeler de dökme alçı malzemeden yapılmışlardır. Burada dikkatinizi çekmek istediğim bir nokta strüktürel özelliklerle ilgilidir. Şöyle ki 4 tane sütun tarafından taşınan bu salon da görmüş olduğumuz bu yatay girişler aslında bazı yerlerde, başka mekanlarda da göstereceğimiz gibi bazı yerlerde asıl taşıyıcı olmayıp görsel kozmetik birer unsur niteliğindedir. Giriş holünün sağ tarafında, güney yönünde ise yemekhaneye, daha doğrusu otelin lokantasına, sol tarafta lokantasına ve nihayetinde de mutfağa uzanan koridor bulunmaktadır. Yürümüş olduğumuz koridorun sol tarafı yemekhane olarak kullanılmıştır. Yürümüş olduğumuz döşemeler çürük olduğundan dikkatli yürümek gerekiyor. Bir dakika şuradan şöyle gelin lütfen. Ve buradan mutfağa geçiyoruz. Burası otelin ve daha sonraki yemekhanenin aslında hiç pek de değişmeden kullanılan bir mekanıdır. İçinde zamanın çok önemli, zamanının çok değerli ekipmanları gözlenmektedir. Görmüş olduğumuz bu mutfak ekipmanlarının üzerindeki plaketlerden onların Fransa'dan getirildikleri anlaşılmaktadır. Her yeri ahşap olan binanın kâgir olan nadir kısımlarından biridir mutfak. Hatta mutfağın tavanı dahi öbür kısımlarda öbür tavanlar ahşap iken buranın tavanı Bağdadi üstü sıva olarak yapılmıştır. Bu da yangına karşı bir önlem olarak alındığı düşünülmektedir. Evet. Pişirme elemanları görüyorsunuz. Evet, şu karşıdaki çok iyi durumda olan bir kızartma makinesi. Mutfak yetimhanenin güney-batı kanadında yer almaktadır. Bulunmuş olduğumuz yerin üzerinde çatıya kadar uzanan ve mimari olarak yukarıdaki katların da içerideki bölümlerin de aydınlanmalarını sağlayan bir aydınlık, ışıklık yer almaktadır. Aynı ışıklık binanın simetrisinde tiyatro sahnesinin üzerinde de bulunuyor. Üçüncü bir ışıklık ise giriş holünün ortasındaki 8 tane sütunun iz düşümünde bulunmaktadır. Binasının güney tarafındayız. Burası yetimhane süresi boyunca en çok kullanılan kısım olmuştur. Karşı yönde ilkokul olarak kullanılan 2 katlı ahşap binayı görüyoruz. Bu da yetimhane sürecinde yapılmış olan bir binadır. Ve büyük bina gibi bu da zamanın yıpratıcı etkilerine yenik düşmüştür.
İlkokul olarak.
Evet, ilkokul olarak kullanılmıştır. Bulunduğumuz yer tepelik olduğundan ve su sıkıntısı yaşandığından dolayı birinci Papalas yapılırken bu olgu öngörülerek sarnıçlar, su sarnıçları yapılmıştı. Bunlardan bir tanesi şu görmüş olduğumuz sarnıç. Öbürleri de 4 tane sarnıç da yetimhanenin girişi olan kuzey cephesinde, kuzey kısmında parsel sınırıyla bina sınırı arasında binaya dik olarak yan yana 3 tane sarnıç olarak bulunmaktadırlar. Bir tane de daha ufak sarnıç bulunmaktadır. Bunlardan bir tanesi şu an zaten doludur ve yangına karşı ihtiyat olarak kullanılmaktadır. Sarnıçların doldurulması için gerek çatıdaki suların çinko derelerle bu sarnıçlara yönlendirilmişler, gerekse de arazideki suların sarnıçlara girmesi için taşlardan küçük kanalcıklar yapılarak yağmur sularının araziden sarnıçların içine girmesi, toplanması sağlanmıştır.
Evet, Apostol Bey'in biraz evvel söylemiş olduğu gibi aslında çok katmanlı bir hafıza mekanı burası. Birçok şey var, hafıza katmanı var. İlk önce hani niye yapıldı diye baktığımızda aslında bütünleşik bir Avrupa düşü hayali var. Yani bugün bizim için bir muamma belki. Aklımız hayalimiz almıyor deriz ya bazı şeylere. Tam da öyle aklımızın hayalimizin almayacağı bir şey. Avrupa'yı demir yolları ağıyla bütünleştirmek. Bu ikinci Leopold'un, o meşhur sömürgeci kralın aslında hayallerindeki bir düş. Buna eşlik eden de banker Giorgio. O da 3 kuşaktır banker ve bu şeyi keşfediyor. Çift dingili, esnek dingili olan uzunlatılmış vagon sistemini. Yani bir yürüyen saray, hareketli bir saray gibi içinde yemek salonları, kütüphanesi, oyun salonu, ayrı bağımsız yatak odaları olan tren tipini keşfediyor ve Avrupa'da çok önemli bir girişime imza atıyor Giorgio. Bir aslında mühendis gibi bir buluş yapmış oluyor. Bu süspansiyon sistemleriyle bugün hala kullanılan demiryolu ulaşımının bence mucidi denebilir. Çünkü o güne kadar demiryolları tramvaylardan çok da farklı olmayan böyle makaslı falan filan. Böyle lüks bir tren yolculuğunu hazırlayıp ve bunun işletmesini üstlendiği şekilde tabii bu sadece bir demiryolu ağı değil, aynı zamanda bir hizmet sistemi. Bu hizmet sistemini karşılamak için de bu bütünleşik Avrupa hayalini doğudaki imgesi, bugün bizim aklımızın hayalimizin hiç almayacağı bir şey İstanbul. İstanbul Avrupa'nın çok önemli bir başkenti o tarihlerde. O Belle Epoque dediğimiz dönemin aslında Avrupa içinde, seçkinler içinde çok önemli bir düğüm noktası. Dolayısıyla bu geçmiş çok ilginç bir şekilde bugün hala keşfedilmeyi bekliyor şehrin bu tarihi. Biz çünkü bu tarihi galiba biraz üzerinden süngerle geçtik. İkinci tabii hiç aklımızın hayalimizin almayacağı bir şey. Abdülhamit'in veya Tanzimat sonrası aslında Osmanlı modernleşmesinin millet sistemi. Bu millet sistemi bildiğimiz geleneksel Osmanlı millet sistemi değil. Basbayağı inşa edilmiş modern bir proje ve bu şekilde bir toplulukların okullaşması, kamu hizmetlerine erişmesi için aslında yani pek de eşitlikçi olmayan bir kozmopolitizm fikri var bunun arkasında. Bugünkü Avrupa Birliği'nin belki temellerine benzetilebilir. Yani bir şey üzerinden kurmak, bir imparatorluğu bütün yerlerde ulus devletler kurulurken imparatorluğu modern bir yapı olarak güncellenmiş bir çok milletli sistem olarak tasarlamak. Bence Abdülhamit'in bunu desteklemesinin arkasındaki ana neden şeylerle olan dostluğu, sevgisi, topluluklara karşı bankere arkadaşı olması falan değil. Aynı zamanda kurgulanmış olan bu sistem bizim bugünkü optiğimizden, biz çünkü sanki bir milletin içinden bakıyormuşuz gibi, aslında sekülerleşmemiş olabilir bu kültürel politikalar. Fakat bunun çok milletli olması. Bu da bizim bugünkü aklımızın almayacağı bir şey. Üçüncü olarak tabii ki yani ulus devlet kurulduktan sonra şehrin hala bu yapısını yeniden üretmeye devam etmesi, Lozan Anlaşması sayesinde bir takım kültürel hakların ortaya çıkması. Şimdi o zaman şöyle bir şey geliyor. Benim hani dördüncü ayak diye bunun geleceğine baktığım zaman geçmiş dediğimiz şey aslında hiçbir zaman geçmiş değil. Geçmiş aslında şimdinin içinde yeniden üretilen bir şey. Dolayısıyla geçmişi nasıl kavruyorsak aslında geleceği de öyle kavruyoruz. O yüzden ben biraz burada şeyle bakmak istiyorum. Bu mimari sorunsala hani şey de der Rem Koolhaas'ın programatik belirsizlikler olduğu zaman mimarlık burada çok farklı bir rol oynayabilir. Bir kaldıraç işlevi görebilir, bir dönüşüm işlevi görebilir. Ben de böyle bakıyorum. Burada hani şöyle bir şey var. Geçmiş aslında geçmiş değil. Şimdi içinde hatta geleceği koşullandıran bir şekilde yeniden üretiliyor. Biz bu tarihi eğer okumayı başarabilirsek o zaman gelecekteki aklımızın hayalimizin almayacağı farklı bir şeyi, ekosistemle olan ilişkimizi, bu yaşadığımız krizler zamanında, bu büyük felaketler zamanında, savaşlar, şeyler, belki de bu insan merkezci müdahalelerin, ki bu yapının yapılması da böyle bir müdahale, bu kavramla tekrar insan sonrası döneme geçildiğinde nesnelerin Berad'ın dediği gibi yani hissettiği, duyduğu, konuştuğu, acı çektiği gibi insan merkezci olmayan bir yaklaşımla doğaya, tarihe yaklaşabiliriz ve o zaman gelecekle ilgili aslında hayal ettiğimiz ya da tam da kavrayamadığımız o bir muammanın belki de böyle bir eşitlikçi sistem içinde onların katılım hakkının, nesnelerin katılım hakkının canlıların ve cansızların eşit bir sistem içinde yer alabileceği yeni bir düzenin, yani modernlerin başından beri var olan bir problemin hep çözümüyle ilgili olduğunu görebiliriz diye düşünüyorum. Evet, yapı tabii 64 yılında boşaltılıyor ve içeride kalan 200 çocuk var. Onlar hızla başka yere naklediliyor. Bir gün içinde yangın tehlikesi var deniyordu ve el konuyor aslında yapıyor. Ondan sonra bir mülkiyet problemi oluyor tabii ki yapının. Hep aslında kullanıma kapalı olduğu için yapının bakımı da yapılamıyor ve bugünkü haline geliyor. Yapının iadesiyle ilgili süreci ben çok kısaca anlatayım. 2007 yılında Avrupa İnsan Hakları Mahkemesi'ne yapının sahibi Patrikhane başvuruyor. Bunun üzerine Avrupa İnsan Hakları Mahkemesi bu başvuruyu kabul ediyor. 2010 yılında da karara bağlıyor. Bu karara bağlanma sürecinde hükümet de olumlu adım atıyor ve buna benzer emsal kararlar alabileceğini görerek aslında bu yapı gibi 36 beyannamesi dediğimiz 1936 yılında kayda geçmiş bütün azınlıklara ait kamusal hizmet veren yapıları, yani vakıflara ait yapıların iadesiyle ilgili bir karar alıyor. 2011 yılında bu bina sahiplerine iade ediliyor, tapusu veriliyor. Yani Patrikhane'ye tekrar geri verilmiş oluyor. Ve ondan sonra da işte bir takım çalışmalar başlıyor. Bu çalışmaların tabii daha evveliyatı da var. Daha önce de ilgilenen mimarlar oluyor, projeler hazırlanıyor. Daha çok bir hani kültürel miras problematiğine nasıl yaklaşılırsa öyle sıradan bir yaklaşım. Ya piyasacı bir dönüşüm olacak. Yani bunu bir imar hakkı olarak görebilirsiniz. Çünkü burada sit alanı olduğu için yapılaşma kısıtlaması var. Ama bu hacimde bir imar hakkı tabii çok önemli, büyük bir hak. Dolayısıyla burayı bildiğimiz kentsel dönüşüm modeliyle piyasacı bir şekilde dönüştürüp buna da restorasyon dersiniz ki adada çok yapılmış bir dolu örnek görüyoruz. Buna benzer sayısız örnek var İstanbul'da. O zaman hiçbir problem yok. Asıl burada sivil girişimin ve Patrikhane'nin de farklı bir yaklaşım var. Burayı bir çevre enstitüsüne dönüştürmeyi hedefliyor. Sivil girişim Patrikhane'nin onayını alarak 2015'te başlayan çalışmalarla, onun da öncesine giden çalışmalarla hatta 2017 yılında Europa Nostra kuruluşuna başvurdu. Ve bu Europa Nostra Avrupa'daki en büyük sivil toplum kuruluşları ağı, kültürel miras alanında çalışan. Bu girişimi İstanbul'da gönüllü insanlar başlattılar ve 2018 yılında Avrupa Kültürel Miras Yılı ilan edildiğinde yetimhane binası da en çok tehdit altındaki 7 miras listesine girdi. Bunun üzerine Avrupa Birliği'nin o dönemki büyükelçisi buraya geldi. Europa Nostra burada hazırlık toplantıları yaptı. Raporlar hazırlandı. Ve böylece uluslararası normlara uygun bir restorasyon girilmesi amaçlandı. Yani bu süreçte uluslararası desteğin de alınması, ilginin de gösterilmesi için bu Europa Nostra'sı çok önemli bir başvuruydu. Burada Dünya Mirası Adalar girişiminde çok önemli bir payı var. Çünkü gönüllü öğrencilerle o başvuru dosyasının ilk dokümanlarını topladı. İstanbullu arkadaşlar geldiler Atina'dan. Onlarla birlikte bir ön hazırlık yapıldı. Ve bu başvuruyla birlikte bu çalışma bir uluslararası boyut da kazanmış oldu. Dolayısıyla burada demin söz ettiğim bu hani geleceği birlikte hayal etme meselesindeki sivil toplumun rolü çok değerli. Çünkü araçsal olmayan bir bakış gerekiyor. Yani araçsal bir yaklaşım bunu bir imar hakkına dönüştürebilir ve bu bugüne kadar hep yapılan kentsel dönüşüm modeli gibi olur. Ama çok daha büyük bir fırsat yaratabilir. Böyle bir çevre enstitüsünün kurulması, böyle bir diyalog merkezinin kurulması tabii çok daha önemli, çok daha farklı bir şeye yol açabilir. Sadece İstanbul için değil, yaşadığımız bütün bölge için olmayan, bildiğimiz insan merkezci yaklaşımlarla şekillenmeyen bir sürecin yapılandırılması muazzam bir şey yaratabilir.
I'm sorry for abruptly just cutting the video now, but I think that was the end.
Excellent,
Yeah,
Pelin.
sharing now. I'm gonna work on my video editing a bit more. So hope you like the tour around Büyükada Pinkupa and the orphanage. Hopefully we can play a role in making it a better place in the future. Yeah. So do you have anything that you want to add up, or
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pelin. So as Korhan Gümüş and Apostolos Poridis and Derya Tolgay and Sera Tolgay mentioned during the video, it's a very important building that belong to the not only Turkish the heritage of Turkey, but the world heritage. I mean, it's already there. And when we're talking about especially the materials, the history of materials and the materiality of the buildings, so it's right there. And I have been there. I think 10 or 11 years ago. You know what I am appreciating, that it is just like the same. It remains the same as I saw it like 10 or 11 years ago, but it's for luck, it's by luck, but at any time it can collapse due to this neglect. So hopefully in the very short future, in the very near future, it's going to be taken into consideration for an extensive restoration with a thorough projection on its history and its future, hopefully. So thank you, Pelin, and thank you to Dünya Adalar Mirası Civil Initiative for making this invaluable video for us. It's important to make a sound of this heritage, not only cultural but built heritage. I mean. So, do you have any comments or?
No, hopefully in a few years, like maybe in the next 5 years, we can take another video, which will be a lot better.
Kudos.
Not infuriating, but yeah, better.
Kudos to that.
And maybe we can even be there actually without.
Exactly. I mean, kudos to that, especially.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you.
So we are receiving from chat. I can see that you find it very interesting and amazing. Thank you very much. Again, thank you to Sera Tolgay, Derya Tolgay, Apostolos Poridis, and Korhan Gümüş, and Pelin Günay for this effort.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. We can now wrap it up by remembering the main features of the symposium very quickly and recalling that the full paper will be requested in the following days. You will have to send it before, so ceci n'est pas un webinar, it's a symposium. And it was held at Uzagi University, and you got the delegate package. For those who didn't get it, you can maybe download it from the link, which somebody should provide in the chat. The program sessions, we know about this. The book of abstracts, if you want one PDF copy, PDF version is in the delegate package, but you can also buy, if you wish, a hard copy on print on demand on the link you're going to find on the website. Figures: 119 papers, 434 delegates, 45 keynote, 27 chairs, 22 organizing committee members, 85 scientific committees, 650 people in our mailing list from different countries, but mainly Turkey, Italy, Serbia, Sweden, yeah, we got France, Bulgaria, Comoros, Bangladesh, United Kingdom, Germany, Lebanon, Finland, and mostly addressing topics related to archaeology and architecture and urban and rural evolution. So that's landscape, translated, it means landscape. Okay, we organize everything using online platforms. This is our team, and just to recall, the website or the conference management system, our key plan with all the different spaces, our Slido polls that were Padlet where people could hang. And so that's a full paper submission deadline is June the 1st. You're going to receive an email in the next days, providing you the guidelines and the procedure for the submission of the paper. That will come. After this, the peer review will be done on those papers by the scientific committee, and then they will also shortlist those papers, presenting candidates for the Prix d'Istanbul, and an independent award committee comprising Adrian Hunlu, Aije Semakubat, Pia Englund, Bing Wang, Marco Trisciuolo, Wowo Ding, and Giuseppe Strappa will read those shortlisted papers and pick one, to which award €1,000 for Le Prix d'Istanbul. This is a new institution that was kindly established by Uzigi University's rector, and we will then announce the final results in the probably final presentation of the summer school in Abruzzo on July 25th. Some of the papers will be selected to be published on the Forma Civitatis, this new journal, on the second issue of that journal, published by Grunberg Verlag in Weimar Dessau. Sorry, Weimar Rostock. Weimar Dessau is Bauhaus, I beg your pardon. And this is the Dynamic Research on Urban Morphology Laboratory, which is the organizer of this event, together with AACCP, and these are the people. I'm not going to name them. You know them. You know me, you know Zeren, Ozge, Zainab, and the others. This is our website. You can find all the information. Just to remember that you can, if interested, take part in our summer school programs in the Roman Forum. As a student, eventually you can enroll. Deadline has been postponed to the end of May, or maybe giving a lecture if you have interesting topics related to the relationship between architecture and archaeology. We're working on the ongoing archaeological excavation of the Torre Agripiana, which is looking into the earlier phases of that building, Etruscan and Republican, or the other summer school in Castelvecchio Calvisio, which is a medieval small town in Abruzzo, which was severely damaged by the earthquake, the Aquila earthquake, and it's almost entirely abandoned. But this ongoing program is trying to give new life to this town. Again, if anyone is interested, let us know. And the research project on Panagia Paramitia Church, Balaksaray Room Orthodox Vakfi, in cooperation with them and the Patriarchate, which has a website, and we are currently working on this. Just to mention the pandemics and the changing built environment, which will be our next conference organized in spring 20. It's going to be held in spring 2022. The call for papers is already published on the website. In the next days, there should be a submission form, and the details are for the for the fee and everything else. Thank you very much for being with us here in Istanbul, even though virtually. And if no other comment, maybe Pat, you want to say a few words to close it, wrap it up?
And thanks to the organizing committee. You've done a wonderful work. And I think we are discussing important issues. And I look forward to meet you all again. And I hope we will have plenty of time for discussion. And at some occasion, I hope we will meet physically so that we could walk around and talk and think, looking at interesting buildings and environments. All the best.
Maybe we should everyone turn on the camera so that Giorgio, are you there, Giorgio? You can take a photograph.
Yes, we should take a photograph.
Giorgio is the official photographer of AACCP in our real events. He's the one taking the photographs and also sharing with. So maybe you can take a photograph, and maybe we can also, not only this one, he prepared other things with those photographs. We will be able to share those with you later.
Perfect. Cheese. It's done.
There are two of them, okay? You got to make two photographs.
I already did.
Okay,
I
wait a
took
second.
at least a dozen.
No, what I'm saying, they don't fit in one screen, so I need to take two.
Yeah, I did already.
So wait a second, keep your camera on, everyone, keep your camera on. I'm not finished yet. I have to do the second one, second screen, and have everyone, and then maybe we can mount that all together and send you the group photo. Two.
Thank you all for your participation and your interest. We appreciate your time and your patience, and hope to see you in the future events, both events of Özyeğin University and events of AACCP. Let's keep in touch. Thank you.
See you again. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye bye.
Thank you.